Art's task is to save the soul of mankind, and that anything less is a dithering while Rome burns.
When people are asleep, don't try to wake them up. And what I mean by that is don't try to force your awakening, your timeline on the people around you, or especially in partnership. Because what do we do when somebody tries to push their beliefs on us? We resist, right? And that's the natural human way. So what I always say is lead by the example of your own awakening. Lead by your connection to your own spirituality. Lead by the excitement of the ways that you are changing your life, and allow that energy to emanate off of you and to affect the people that it's meant to affect. And people wake up in their own time. People are always on their own timelines and journeys. So you can lead through your energy, you can lead through your example, but the minute that you try to push your awakening on someone else is when that gets challenging inside of the relationship. So it requires trust and surrender from you that you are meant to follow the path that you're meant to follow. If you feel like you're meant to change your life, if you're on the spiritual awakening path, follow that and trust and surrender that the people that are meant to come on that journey will stay, and the people that are meant to fall away will fall away. And that can be a really hard pill to swallow, but it requires a lot of trust and surrender and openness to your own path.
the human free spirit is going to win out because no one can know what the free will, the freedom of choice leads to. I mean, not even God can know that in many senses, if you think about it. Okay? So that's part of it. And that also means that whatever was in play is now no longer in play. Not because of some plan, but because of the free will of people. Now, there was an environmental change that took place to bring about that change of free will in the people. So yeah, you could think of that as a controlled operation, but in many ways it's not, because people could choose from two different ways. You can believe the controlled operation, or you can't, or you don't. Whatever the case may be, enough hope, enough desire for change, enough discontentment was released that it changed the world. It changed the direction of the wake. And so where are we now? Where are we now? We're in the midst of that. We're in the midst of the exercising out of the change that we, as a society, instigated. And I'm not just saying voted, I'm saying metaphysically. Understand that. I'm not just saying it was the vote that caused this. I'm saying it was the energy behind the vote, and so the vote was a manifestation and accompaniment that went with the change. That was the necessary change. How about them apples? And so here's the good news. Here's the good news. The energy that's going to continue to instigate the change that you're experiencing is the awareness of people. And the level of here's the key line, and the level of the catastrophe is going to be scaled by the knowledge of humankind. Do you understand what that means? That means that it's all on us. Again, this Cassiopaean theory that I'm telling you, that basically means that it's all on us. It's up to us. And however we wish to change is going to happen based entirely on how much participation we offer, how much meditative energy and energy for change and of change and away from these ideas of conflict that we manifest. You are the change that you seek, in other words. Yeah. You're the change that you seek. And if you align to a humanistic, humane-oriented value system, whatever change that is going to be yearning from your soul is going to be one that is of human value, humane value, naturally. And so this is teased out of you, this humane value, this reverence for nature, this reverence for yourself, this new identity and understanding of who you are, right, is teased out of you by your level, your scale of awareness, knowledge. This is why I really like this Cassiopaean theory, because it really is in keeping with this whole idea of self-responsibility that I've been talking about with you guys for years now. And I never knew anything about it. I never knew anything about it. And so the fact that it now has come forward, and it's just simply, literally, this thing is just blending right into not only the questions I've been persistently asking, which we're going to go over in the study, but it not only gives a really good opinion about that, But it also ties together this whole idea of knowledge being basically the agent, the enlivening elixir that the individual drinks, literally drinks into their life, into their body, into their spirit, that changes the world.
You make it sound easy. You say you just hold your hand out, don't you? You just hold your hand out, don't you? That hope never leaves you, 'cause a light shines on that helps you to steer, makes everything clear. Well, it might in your world, but it doesn't in mine. I've been stumbling in the dark for years, and the light just made me blind. You see, it lights every pathway, shows me how to live life for the rest of my days, for the rest of my days. But I can't put my faith in your words into mine. I believe in God, alright. It's folk like you I just can't stand. You don't have to try and scare me to reinforce my face up, 'cause I know that one day I'll stand before my Maker. When my case is heard, it'll be by the author, not some interpreter of his words. You make it sound easy. You say you just hold your hand out, don't you? You just hold your hand out, don't you? Hope never leaves you, 'cause a light shines on that helps you steer, makes everything clear. Well, it might in your world, but it doesn't in mine. I've been stumbling in the dark for years, and the light just made me blind. Oh, the light just made me blind. Yeah, the light just made me blind.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome. It's a big day today. I got a lot to tell you. Let's go over to chat, say hello to everybody. Welcome. Glad that everybody's here. I'm going to go to the bottom. Hey, Fortune, you're the first one I saw. Shoot, and you're leaving. Nice. Yeah, Pete's the man. Pete's the man. Absolutely. Hey, Pete, it's good to see you, buddy. Yeah, make sure you like and subscribe and share. That's the superpower you guys have. What is going on, Mother Nature? Glad to see you. I actually meant to click on that one. Hey, Scarab, how's it going? I still love that picture of the cat. It's just fantastic. What do we got here? Hey, Nancy, how's it going? How's it going? I got some really great stuff for you tonight. What's up, Daniel? Good to see you, friend. Hi, April Kitten. Good friends here. Hi, Biker Chick. I know I'll be seeing you. Why isn't it clicking over? There we go. I know I'll be seeing you in July, which is awesome. I have some announcements to make in regards to July. I'll make them in a minute here. Good for you, Fortune. What's this? Ben Collard's graduation soon. I remember he was born. Yes, that's amazing. That is amazing. Yeah, it's always interesting seeing your nieces and nephews get married. That's always interesting. Hey, what's going on, Gail? It's good to see you. Thanks for all your work and Discord. So appreciate you guys. What's happening, Jay? When's the Nature Creature playlist coming out? Yeah, we should, shouldn't we? I got some good ones. I love you too, Lighthouse. Thanks for being here, love. It's great to see you. Hey, Mel, what's going on? It's good to see you. Hope you're doing okay. Hope you're recovering okay. What's up, Craig? Hey, buddy. These are old friends, man. I know all these people. This is great. Hey, Clueless, what's going on? You're beautiful too, my friend. You're beautiful too. Nice. Hello, hello. You guys checking out the Monaco GP? It's been pretty interesting. I already said hello to Pete. Hey, Pete. Don, what's going on, buddy? Yeah, we got some heavy duty stuff tonight. So let's go over to announcements here. And let's get up all the stuff here. Hang on. Here. There we go. Okay. Oh, and of course. Yeah, they are the best. Hey, Scoot, what's going on, buddy? It's good to see you. So we got some announcements to make. So, big time upgrade. Are you guys ready? You guys will love to hear this. So we have upgraded the meeting site for July the 18th. We're still meeting, obviously, on the mountain and to see Artist Point. But we're moving the night meeting from an open park to a private residence. And so Jenny and I, this next week, are going to go film it. And then next week, if I have it ready, next week, I will take you guys there. I'll show you where we're going to be meeting at that night and getting together and having a great time as the Nature Creature family. And as you know, we'll be spending the day up at Artist Point, Mount Baker. And I have, let's show you. I have all the maps and everything. And I showed all these a couple of weeks ago for everyone that's interested. But I'm not going to go through all this now. We have too much to cover tonight. But I will at least put up all the slides so that you guys can see the maps, and then you could just pause the video if you want to check out more detail. But I talk about, I talk about all this stuff a couple of weeks ago at 17 minutes. It's the video in my lives, either on my website or YouTube, that show me laughing. It says something like a discussion with Chad or an evening with Chad or something. It's just from a couple of weeks ago. At about 17 minutes, I talk about the location. But what I wanted to make sure that you guys knew here, I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew, add to stage, remove, there, that we are meeting at a private location. There it says number at 6 p.m. meet at private residence around a campfire with the Nature Creature family. That will be our time together as a family, as well as during the day up on the mountain. And we do have a number of people coming. I've been contacted by a number of couples who are coming, as well as some folks who are just coming on their own. I have one gentleman that is coming here by bus. Can you believe that? He's coming all the way across the nation by bus to attend this gig. So it's really turning out to be an incredible thing. So I just wanted you guys to know the upgrade for the evening, which was really cool. Okay, what's the next announcement? Add to stage here. Okay. That's right. A new video has been released for Nature Creature members. It discusses my spirituality, non-grasping cults, and tees up the new Cassiopaean study we're taking on, which is the big study we're taking on tonight. So if you haven't become a member, you can become a member at Nature Creature. There's some exclusive videos there available for you, and I will continue to be adding those, hopefully one a week, for quite a while. I have some perennial philosophy stuff I've got to cover. I have the last Zen series video I have to cover. And then I also I'm right now working on some videos that are in-car videos where I just discuss some pertinent, relevant information. And so it's a way to support my work, support the effort in those that are a part of this, as well as paying for the necessary fees that go along with having these kind of live shows and live feeds. It's not free. All of this stuff costs. And so to sustain it, that's why I have a membership as a sort of like a partnership with the group that's benefiting from the work. And so, yeah, I would really appreciate it if you wanted to become a member. You came down and became a member. It's $9 a month. And if that's too much for you, we have scholarships available if you would like to check that out. Also, a lot of people don't know this, but there is actually at the site a place, like if you want to have an interview with me, if you want to interview me, if you want to do something live on your YouTube channel or something with me, put a note in at the place where it talks about interviews under the membership menus at my website, naturecreature.net. And then you can let me know or let my team know that you want to have an interview or something with me. And then we can organize that, put that together. I'm happy to do that. I've gotten some emails from folks, but the weird thing is that whenever I reply back and I just say, hey, can you send me your current channel, or can you send me some stuff that you have done and worked on the internet, and they'll never reply. they never get back to me. So it's weird. They'll go to the trouble of writing me a letter and everything, and then I just simply want to see, kind of their gig, and they just don't reply. So I don't know, but just so you know, that's there and available for you. Okay, next. Okay, so this week I put together some leggings on Printify for the ladies, and I'm curious what y'all think of them. This is option 1, and these are recycled nylon and elastane. They have some really good logo stuff on them. I've got another type here, and if you good grief, what is happening? Okay, here's the second type, which I thought was really awesome. This other one has the platonic solids on it, and then this one has the Nature Creature logo. And it's an option for y'all to consider for my merch line. I'm going to get a pair for Jenny and my daughter. And then, here's another picture of them here. I thought they turned out really cool. But I thought you guys might like these. A lot of folks have wanted some yoga pants or legging options, and so I thought that might be a cool option. It's impossible to find them for less than $100 a pair if they're organic. So the best I could do was recycled nylon, which is actually completely legit, and elastane. There's no plastics or anything like that, constructing them like polyesters and so forth. And so it's a viable option. I thought they looked really cool, and I thought the ladies might like them. So if you want to check it out, those are at my merch site. And if you're a member, you get 10% off of all the merch that I offer. So that's another option for you guys to consider. The reason why I'm smiling is I have a story to tell you. And then after I tell you this story, I'm going to open up the Cassiopaean Mythology, and it's going to be quite an adventure. But what I wanted to tell you guys was a story that happened on Sunday night. Now, this is an absolutely true story. This actually happened. This is completely real. Okay, so there's a little bit of a background to tell you. So I live in a forested neighborhood. That we live in a forest where we're located at. And so we're surrounded by wild animals, bears, cougars, all kinds of eagles and birds of every sort, and all kinds of wild animals, jackals and gophers and everything. So it's a pretty active space. Okay. So our house here where I live is not new. It's been around for quite a few decades. And so it's not as tight as it used to be. And so from time to time, believe it or not, down here in the basement where I have the lair, a little mouse will get into the wall, I'm in the basement, and so it's solid. Right here on my left is it's solid dirt underneath the house. I'm below the house in the basement, and so sometimes little animals have found their way into whatever crack somewhere that exists down in this basement area. And so there was a little mouse right there that was in the wall, and I couldn't access it. And I was walking around the wall trying to figure out where it was, and I finally put my ear right up to the wall, and I could literally hear it, just scratching around there, walking around. I literally heard it. And I was really frustrated because it was impeding on my study. I like to, after I finish Saturday nights, it's a really big rush. And so after a few hours have calmed down, I immediately start right into the following weekend's work. And that will continue on through Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon and on into Monday. And then hopefully by the end of Monday, I've got most of my idea of what I'm going to do on the following Saturday already in place. And so having that thing in the wall screwing around was driving me bonkers. I was going out of my mind because I was so annoyed with it. I was hitting the wall. At one point, Jenny comes down and she's like, "Have you heard some kind of banging?" And I'm like, "I'm sorry, it's me." And so this whole episode is going down and I am losing it. And it reminds me of the the farmer and the fox story I told at the beginning of Zen. And the same thing is happening to me. Like, I'm not thinking about it. I'm just getting more and more annoyed. And so finally, in my frustration, I take a screwdriver that is sitting on my desk. You're not gonna believe this. And I jam the screwdriver into the wall, not only to hopefully kill that damn thing, but to basically put a hole there so I could see what was in there in some way to get to this thing. And this is when the miracle happened. So I jam the screwdriver into the wall. I make a hole in the wall. And as I'm pulling the screwdriver out of the wall, it hits me. And it was the exact same thing that happened. You guys remember in the farmer and the fox story, when the farmer took that axe in his rage and frustration of not being able to catch the fox, and he slams the butt of the axe against the stump in the ground, the axe breaks, the head flies off, and it goes and it kills the fox that was killing all his chickens. I pull the screwdriver out and it hits me. It hits me, I'll tell you. So I walk over to my desk and I get a pen and I take, it's like one of these kind of pens, right? Remember as a kid in high school, you'd always take this top part out, right? And you'd have like a hole. And then when I was in elementary school, I had a habit of, I would always bite these blue things out of the end of them. But what eventually happens is, I don't know if I can get this out or not, but eventually I had a tube, a plastic tube that was the exact size of the screwdriver. And I took the pen and I stuck it in the wall, in the hole where I had jammed the screwdriver, right where it was at. It was like right there. And I took the pen, I stuck it in the hole. And then I got my bong and I took a giant, like king size hit of weed. And I exhaled the entire amount into the wall. And I got high, the mouse got high, and I haven't heard a peep since. I swear to God, how zen is that? How zen is that? I haven't heard a peep since. I probably put enough smoke into that wall to basically turn it into like a fire hazard. I mean, meaning so much smoke. And I haven't heard a thing since. I have not heard from the mouse again. It was immediately quiet. It worked perfectly. And I just had to tell you guys that story because it was so freaking zen. I mean, the mouse is happy. I'm happy. And no more noise. Isn't that genius? So just so you guys know, if you ever have a mouse in the wall, grab yourself a bong. How great is that? It's totally true. And here, look, I got the picture. There it is. I swear, that's the pic I took right after I took it. You guys see that? You guys just saw that. Good? What do you guys think in comments? I gotta see what you guys said. No, I just fill it. I fix walls all the time. No, I fix walls all the time. The hole isn't the point. It is such an awesome. I mean, seriously. I solved the problem by making everyone happier. Come on. Nobody died. Nobody got injured. And there's no more mouse, man. It's fantastic. Totally awesome. See? No, that's not true, High Verbal. That's not true. I haven't heard from him since. How zen, though? Come on, guys. How zen is that? It's totally zen. And I didn't know that actually worked. That would actually work. I just had this idea. I thought, maybe if I just get him really high, he'll just be quiet long enough for me to get my work done, and then he can do his thing after I go to bed. I swear it's true. Not a peep. Nothing. Gone. Like gone. He got his fun and he took off. So greatness. Okay. is greatness. Wasn't greatness? I never even thought to video it, Michelle. I never even thought to, because I didn't know if it was work. It is Zen, isn't it, King? That's the ultimate Zen. That, if anyone ever asks you, I'm going to use that tale for my story. When everyone asks, what is Zen? I'm going to tell them that story. That's what Zen is. That is exactly what Zen is. I know, bears and mice. Had a bear at my door the other day and had a mouse on my wall the other day. What is happening? What is happening? Okay. So we have some heavy work to do tonight, guys. We have some heavy work tonight. And I want to, as we're getting started here, I want to say a couple of things to prelude into this, because I'm thinking that a lot of you are not familiar with this material. Now, this material, as I've been reading, I read about 300 pages this week in preparation for tonight, and I've got a pretty good idea as to what the Cassiopaean mythology is. I think I'll be able to do a good job explaining it to you guys. But here's what I really want you all to consider as you hear this, because it's radical. It's radical. What I want you to consider, and this is the key, this is key here. I want you to consider how well it lines up just naturally in the way it goes about communicating our history and our current plight now. In the way that it does that, how well it coincides to all of the work that we've done here. Okay? That's one of the reasons why I kind of went berserk when I came across it and started digging into it, because I kept having aha moments reading it and thinking, oh my God, that completely ties into this kind of Rosicrucian idea. Oh, that's completely Zen, this idea. Oh my goodness, that's completely Buddhist, that idea. And oh, I totally see that pattern in Christianity and how that scenario led to what's happening in religion, in world religion. It's going to tie in all the pyramids, all the history. It's going to give you a basic premise or idea to consider as to what is behind what has been happening. What is impinging on our environment to entice, to evoke change naturally out of the human collective. Because what we've been seeing is not a situation where someone's come forward and basically read off a set of 10 points, and then we've just watched those 10 points play out. What we've been seeing is people coming in and estimating, and then we've been kind of tying into some of folks' estimations into what's happening, into a theory as to why the world is going the way it's going, why it's changing the way it's changing, why so many channelers and people that are in touch with the spiritual world in a way that's a little beyond, or quite a bit beyond, the average everyday human being. And they all kind of have a similar theme. I mean, think of how many people would describe what's happening to the world right now as the Great Awakening. That's a common theme, because where everybody's come from in their travels, they've come to that themselves. And so when they hear other people talk about the Great Awakening, they fully grasp what that is. And so what this mythology is going to do is it's going to basically, this is what's amazing, it's going to encompass, it's going to incorporate all that we've been studying. Okay, and I didn't plan that. This hasn't been what I've been aiming for since I started my lives. This has just happened naturally as we've been continuing in our journey on the ocean of discovery, learning and growing together. And some of us leaving the ship and going our own way, some coming back and some never coming back. But we're all together on the ocean, discovering and exploring for ourselves. And so what I loved about this Cassiopaean mythology is that I didn't have to sit around and deny a bunch of the studying that I had done. I didn't have to twist and manipulate Rosicrucianism to fit into the Cassiopaean theology or philosophy. Same with Zen. Same with astrotheology. All of them have fit lucidly without even having to try. Okay? So I want you guys, as we walk into this, to understand this is not an attempt by me to suddenly change my ideas, my philosophies. In fact, This is a deepening into what I very much subscribe to as a really good idea. I can't say that I now believe this, but I can say that, like a dream, it's pointing at something. There's something there. And just like when you wake up from your dream, you may not know exactly where it was pointing. You may not understand fully what was going on, but there's a sense about it that makes sense. And the more you take it apart, the more you start realizing there's something to be found here. There's something to be said about this. I was reached by a couple of people this week who really had a problem with Laura Knight. They claimed that she was a racist. They claimed that she was a con. They claimed that she was out to take people's money. They claimed that she was involved in lawsuits and people were suing her because she's such a horrible person. And so I got, a number of these letters. And so I began, check it out for myself. And what I came back from was, well, that may be the case, but I also see the same kind of thing happen to David Icke. I see lawsuits against people like Joe Rogan who are trying to do a good thing. And I see that there ain't nobody on the planet that has all the answers. And so it's, to me, the philosophy itself should be the guiding light. And that again points to what I just said, which is this Cassiopaean mythology ties right into what we've been studying. So even though some people think this lady is whack, even though some people are convinced that she's this bad person, I've been studying the philosophy now for all of about 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm coming away with some pretty heavy duty concepts that are awesome, that bring about great understanding. So let's dive right in. Here we are. You're watching for the basically the first week. This is when we're really going to get into it, of the Cassiopaean mythology. We touched a little bit about density last week, but we're going to go further with it this week. Now, please read along with me. Knowledge. It is repeatedly said in the Cassiopaean transcripts that our best defense and preparation is knowledge. It is a gateway to development and transcendence. And really, you guys need to understand the importance of this, okay? You are quickening because knowledge is quickening you. Knowing more makes you more powerful and all the more distasteful to controllers. Knowing more defends you from attacks and disinformation. Today, we are being bombarded with what has been hidden, and it is rife with disinformation. Follow now. It is your job, okay? It's your job, not my job. It's your job to decipher new information for yourself. I cannot do that for you, and no institution can do that for you. My role here is to communicate to you patterns, not final opinions. Key. In fact, final opinions are tyranny to a free will spirit. You will have to decipher truth from fiction because knowledge power is realized by entering the space and experiencing it, not through blind obedience and following orders. If you run, you will learn nothing. If you stay and participate, you offer yourself the opportunity to learn and grow. This is key. I don't want to gloss over that. That's key. Remember what they said last week at the beginning video. If you're in a marriage, the choice to stay in the marriage, despite all that you're going through, usually leads to a higher spiritual plane of understanding. Meaning, if you endure it, if you stay and you work it out and keep, working to keep the relationship together and keep going, you offer yourself, simply by doing that and not walking away, you offer yourself a deeper spiritual sense than you would have gotten had you just left. By staying in that difficult situation, you offer yourself a greater spiritual insight about yourself and others because you're staying in that difficult situation. And I'm not saying across the board, obviously, if you're being abused or attacked, I'm not saying, well, just stick it out and keep getting abused. I'm not saying that. Understand that. See the bigger picture I'm pointing at, the deeper truth. Okay? And it's like that when it comes to our history. Who are you? What is God? What is the universe? What is the meaning of life? And you're better off staying in a tough spot, trying to find a way and through that situation, than just saying, F it, I don't care, I don't want to know anymore, and just leaving and not thinking about it anymore, and just abandon it. Do you see? By staying in the space, continuing to pursue who you are, understanding the universe, yourself, your environment, how to understand appropriate behavior and learning from the heart, and so on and so forth. You see, you stay in that space, you offer your greater growth. You offer yourself a greater growth potential. And it's the same thing here that they're saying right here. If you stay and participate, you offer yourself the opportunity to learn and grow. Nature will never simply hand over her deepest secrets anymore than you will tell your deepest secrets to a stranger. Knowledge, like respect, is merited. There is no such thing as an untainted author of history. Agenda is part and parcel of dominator culture. Very few know the whole story, including myself, of course. And there is no such thing as a panacea and a wonder. And you guys have heard me say that before. So the only final spiritual authority for you, for your life, is you. You protect yourself with knowledge. Knowledge, because I mean, you only answer for yourself. You don't answer for anyone else. You answer for yourself. Knowledge is spiritual authority made 3D manifest, and there is no knowledge depot that exists other than your own heart. Cavit emptor, fellow sojourner. That means buyer beware. May the believer beware, because it is the lack of knowledge that has allowed our continued stagnancy and irrevocable suffering. And I put irrevocable because after tonight, and this is going to be one of the very difficult aspects for you guys. Tonight, after tonight, you're going to understand the whole idea of the afterlife and the whole idea of what it means to be a human being differently. You may not believe it. You may not like it. You might not go with it. But it's going to give you something to chew on for the week, for sure. And it's going to give us as a group something to consider for a few weeks, because it's heavy. It's bigger than the black and white world that religion has given you. It's bigger than even the world that Buddhism offers you, because the Cassiopaeans actually have something to say about those outer realms rather than just calling it the void. And if you remember correctly, Buddhism was essentially developed for the sense of escape, and the same idea as moksha, release. Okay? And so you're gonna have to kind of start getting fluid, getting okay with hearing a bigger mousetrap or seeing a bigger mousetrap than what these philosophies and religions have been offering you since you were born, and most of our population since its inception, because the world has been a control op, but we'll get into that. Okay, may the believer beware, because it is a lack of knowledge that has allowed our continued stagnancy and irrevocable suffering. In fact, all systems set up on this planet have been systematically designed to destroy hope, encourage suffering, maintain control, and exploit the human body and soul. Medicine keeps the person sick for their entire life. Government ensures all growth is contained. Military keeps any resistance at bay. Religion is the tool to prime the afterlife pump, so souls willingly jump back into the reincarnation cycle to be sick and controlled for another lifetime on this planet. There's some hard stuff to tell you guys tonight about our planet being a loosh factory long before we were here. Knowledge is your protection against spirits and extraterrestrials who cannot feel nor can even recognize true love. Knowledge is your only defense against beings, spirits, or extraterrestrials who eat what we call love. Awareness is your nuke option, so fill your arsenal with it to defend yourself. This is not a win or loss Armageddon. It is an opportunity to graduate. Please do not mistake that. And finally, suggestions for tonight. You can learn a lot from a crime scene. Okay, what you guys need to know and understand this. The Earth has been a crime scene for 309,000 years, according to this Cassiopaean philosophy. The human, this is another thing you didn't learn from any of these other philosophies. The human spirit, it was infused into 3D organic life 309,000 years ago. They got a whole theory about the Atlanteans, Lemuria. It's all in there, folks. Knowledge is the mediator of entelechy. Entelechy is the realization of potential to soul. Knowledge is your key there. Take from a variety of sources to gather patterns and discern lies from truth. Combine what you already know with what you hear tonight. Don't trust any system, any source, including me, of course, or media as a final authority for correctness. Observe, discern, integrate, and grow. And speaking of which, just so you guys know, never have an expectation of me. I will never meet your expectations. I will always, and I informed this to a Zoom member the other day, I will always fail you if you have expectations of me. Always. So don't have any expectations on people. If you want to be a tyrannical force in someone's life, put expectation on them. Okay? So understand, don't have any expectation from this. Walk into this space open, free to discern and learn, rather than having expectations. Okay? We're going to get into trouble real fast if folks are coming to either Zoom or coming to my evenings tonight with expectations. Okay? I just want to make that really clear. The more whistleblowers are criticized by the establishment, media, and other cronies, typically the closer the whistleblower is to the truth. And you will need your creative mind tonight. And you guys know both of those very clearly, very understood, lucidly. Now, follow now. This is 12 questions to help everybody improve their discernment tonight. Here we go. Laura Knight, she's the one who channeled the Cassiopaeans and created from those channels the mythology. So she is claimed to be involved with some very questionable characters, interesting lawsuits, and a community of people insisting her is illegitimate, racist, a con artist, fraud, and idiot. Does that mean everything she claims is bunk? Does it? Alan Watts died of alcoholism. Does that make it foolish to consider his teachings? Does it? Some of you think it does. Hemingway died of severe depression, paranoia, and finally shot himself. Does that delegitimize his poetry? Cliff High has gone full obsession with his girlfriend and has said many rude and needless things about their relationship. Is everything Cliff High said now of lesser value or worthless? Galileo Galilei died in his house under arrest and constant surveillance for disobedience against the Roman Catholic Church. Does that discredit his celestial theories? Revelation was written by a man having DMT-like hallucinations, basically mind tripping, in exile on a rock. Has that kept 80% of them or more of the West from believing him? You guys realize that? Basically, the West is subscribed to what some dude said when he was basically DMT tripping. Okay? The little dose of reality for everybody there. John Bonham died in his own pool of alcohol-laden puke. Does that delegitimize his drumming and musical influence? This is called discernment, friends and neighbors. The Dalai Lama is known to be a captured KM puppet. Does that stain does that stain Buddhist teachings? David Icke has been made out to be a charlatan by the media and establishment. Does that mean what he says isn't true? Franklin Graham posted selfies from Voodoo Donuts, a known pedo hub. Does that make all the work of Samaritan's Purse satanic? Does it? Because I know a dude that's getting a free house from Samaritan's Purse. But yet, Franklin Graham was hanging out at Voodoo Donuts, a known pedo hub. Discernment, friends and neighbors. Bill Gates claims vaccines are good for you, and you are an idiot if you don't take them. Does that mean the non-vaxxed are screwed idiots for not following the advice of Gates and Fraudchi? Does it? Christianity makes some spiritually racist claims, like they alone are the chosen ones of God. Their God is the only right God. Don't believe like them and you go to hell. Does that make all of Christianity's suggestions spiritually racist and of no value? You guys smell what I'm stepping in when I ask you those questions? Do you know why I'm doing that? Here, go back. I'll show you them again. You know why I did that? You know why I did that? Because it doesn't matter what you hear. You never know. Look, we've got entire societies of people, some of the brightest people in the world that ever lived, that believe that they're sinners and they're going to hell without Jesus. We have people who actually believe that. Bright people who believe that. Okay. And we know, anybody who is awake knows that all religions are a psyop, controlled up. And there are very, very, very smart people who are 100% down the river believing that they're a sinner, that they need Jesus, that they need a savior, that the Great Awakening is all about Christianity. Bright people, smart people. Okay. So I tell you that to say, there are very bright people in the world who are very convicted in what they're telling you. And they will love you right into an oblivion of emptiness because they're just simply parroting what they learned. And there's no substance there. And they're bright. They're renowned, revered people. I mean, look at C.S. Lewis. Probably considered one of the brightest guys that ever lived. The guy sold down the river Christianity, sold down the river. Could never get over himself, the fact that he thought he was a sinner, which locks you into self-consumption, which is service to self, and we're going to talk about that tonight. But the point I'm making here in saying all this is that you can't essentially believe everything anyone says. You're going to have to pick portions of what they say. So please, while we go over this mythology tonight, please pick the portions that resonate with you, and don't let the portions that don't resonate with you destroy the whole thing. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Understand there's going to be pieces and components of anyone's opinion that are going to be blatantly right and blatantly wrong. Sometimes the same opinion from two different perspectives. Okay, so life is about learning, growing, deciphering, discerning. And this is what we're going to do tonight as we study this radical idea. We are in a free will situation. Even sixth density beings do not know how or what the human collective spirit will develop into, nor how our energy finally changes the universe, because there is free will. And therefore, the future cannot finally be known to anyone. Cannot be known any more than God can finally be explained. That is how you can grasp that there is no plan, because free will cannot be planned, and we are free will beings. The object of the game has been to limit free will by suppressing your environment and therefore awareness. That is how you can know you are your own savior, and no one person, player, group can finally determine your fate but you. This is why nobody could see past 2012, when free will began seeping into the hidden hand philosophy or hidden hand plan, like mycelium taking over a rhizosphere. That's what we're doing. We're the mycelium, folks. Since 2012, we have been in a course of change towards fourth density, guided by our free will. Speed and course of change is determined by how quickly we awaken, and awakening energy changes the forthcoming karma daily. And not even God can determine this, because we all have free will. We're going to get heavy in a minute here, folks. The key emphasis here and now, the faster we awaken, the less catastrophic the change. Now, this is the radical idea I'm presenting tonight. The faster we awaken, the less catastrophic the change. And one of the things you're going to find is that just like all the other ancient teachings, the Cassiopaeans also teach, just like the Rosicrucianisms, just like all these ancient societies, they teach that there's cataclysm coming. But here's the key thing. Realize that cataclysm applies both in a negative sense and in a positive sense. For instance, you could call the day you got married a cataclysmic event, couldn't you? Because on that day, everything changed. You signed a contract, went into a love bond with another person, and committed yourself for life to them. That's a catastrophic change, but not in the sense of disaster. Some of you might think in the sense of disaster, but in my case, for my marriage, it's catastrophic in the sense I'm never going to be the same again. And I've moved out of that modality and I've moved into this other modality. Okay, understand that applies to the Great Awakening. And what I wanted you guys to consider on this front end as we're walking into this thing, okay, you guys have seen, remember we had 3i Atlas? Remember? We had the COVID PSYOP, right? Remember we had the climate change PSYOP, and they basically reframed and reshaped the entire business of the world based on the climate PSYOP that they promoted for 2 decades. And then what did you just see happen the last couple of weeks? The European Union completely let go of climate change and said it's BS, it's not true. And they basically destroyed the world with that narrative. But yet, here you find out right here, they just declared it's not true. And then there's the PSYOP and what else? Okay, so what does this tell you? What does this tell you? Okay. Who stopped the COVID? We did, because we didn't get the shots. Like, there was resistance. We said, no, we don't want that. What happened in 2016? There were a lot of people, more people than usual, that said, we're not going with the status quo president this year. We're not going with that. We don't want that world. We don't like the direction things are going in. In 2016, there's a massive amount of people that voted differently. I talk about that a little bit in my video of recent. The point is that we changed course. Had we stayed on that course, you guys know this. Had we stayed on that course in 2016, you guys know it was over. But we changed the course because we spoke. Enough people came forward and spoke. This is very, very important to understand as to what's happening. And have you guys noticed that the AI Atlas came through and it was a big deal? It was, I mean, I even talked about it and that it could have an impact. We didn't know. It was kind of like, well, it could, you know, now's the time for it to, but notice that it didn't. Just throwing this out there as an idea. Could it be possible that the human collective, because for, let's say, the last 10 years before that 3i Atlas was here, we've been changing our minds here on this planet. We've been changing the energy and the direction that we're going. You guys see what's happening in the Middle East right now, and the changing of the plan, the changing of the money system, the digitalizing of the currency. You guys seeing all these massive, catastrophic changes happening, don't you? But not all of them are catastrophe in the sense of wiping out society. They're catastrophe in the sense of, oh, this is a societal changing concept. And some people in society won't be able to make that transition. Others will. So it's a catastrophe in both a good sense and a bad sense simultaneously. There's a huge misnomer right now that people think that the catastrophe to come has to be bad. Has to be bad. The catastrophe coming, the reason why they're calling it a catastrophe, many people think, is because it's terrible. It's gonna end 90% of the population, whatever. Understand that in the Cassiopaean philosophy, catastrophe means both positive and negative. If med beds are true and med beds come out, will that be a catastrophe for the medical industry? Yes. For the controllers of the medical industry, yes. Because if you can heal everyone that walks in and uses that bed, you now no longer have a pharma industry. You now no longer have a psychopathic industry. You now no longer have psychotropic drugs being put, like SSRIs and antidepressants and Valium and shit, being put into the society, dumbing it down, lowering its awareness, lowering its awakening. That's all gone. Wouldn't you say that's a catastrophic change for the good? Get used to that. I want you guys, in changing your frequency, get used to changing your idea of catastrophe from a negative idea to a positive idea. And you guys are going to learn why I'm going to be focusing more in the coming weeks on our energy and our responsibility. What does this tell you? I just explained we control the quickening, and if we transcend, it is a big deal. What I'm trying to say is we have an effect of this quickening, and the catastrophes that were coming, that were going to happen, in my opinion, we are influencing them. And it's common sense knowledge to know that the reason why COVID failed was because so many people didn't buy it. That's why. Had everybody gone along with it, in other words, had everybody still been dumbed down, unaware, what would have happened? It wouldn't have stopped. Imagine the catastrophe that would have happened had that been the case. If 99% of the population went out and got those shots, what would be our condition now? If nobody had voted for change in 2016, what would be our condition right now? Who's been the influence to make those changes, to make those enormous world cycle changes? We have. We've done that by our resistance, our unwillingness to comply, our disobedience, and it is having direct effect. And I'm about to show you guys the theology or the philosophy that goes behind it. Now, here's what I want you guys to do. We're going to start talking about densities, okay? The Cassiopaeans divide up consciousness into 7 densities. And each density, as you go higher, is just like the chakras. So you have a density 1 or first density, which is your most basic. So think of the Muladhara, your base chakra, the first chakra. This is just the will to live. No emotions, no feelings, no passion, just a will to hang on to life. That Joseph Campbell called it a grim avidity, just hanging in there. Okay, that's one level, level one consciousness, level one density. Okay, and in the Cassiopaean's view, there are 7 of these densities, and these densities percolate in a different way at every density layer. So the reality at 4th dimension is different than the reality at 3rd. Think of it like pressures in atmosphere, or pressures of the water in atmospheres. As you go down, the pressure builds. It's a different environment. And as you change your level, change your depth, you change your environment. You change the reality to the point whereby you won't even be able to exist. You couldn't live. Like, you go so deep, you can't exist. You've moved into such a foreign reality, even right here on this planet, that you can't live. Think of consciousness just like that, exactly like that. These different layers. And it's organized. It's not happenstance. It's not just chance. There's a self-organizing to the realms that makes sense as you graduate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. Just like the chakras, you go into meditation and you move through the chakras and you study and meditate upon each of their values, each of their strengths, each of their weaknesses, and how these relate to you as a person. You graduate in your understanding of yourself. You're no longer just holding to life. Now there's the idea of procreation. Like, I can continue my genetic. I can continue my mind through my offspring. Well, that's a larger concept than just holding to life. And then there's power projection. I think it's Svadhisthana. And it's putting your imagination, your will, your power into the world, influencing the world directly. Well, that's an even bigger concept than just intimate relationships with another person. Now you're talking about affecting the whole world with all these inventions and ideas and so forth that you put into the world. And then it keeps going to the heart chakra. This transforms your whole thinking apparatus, your whole telos. Understand? And as you go up, the frequency, right? The complexity of life, the depth of life, the sense of life deepens, deepens, deepens every level till you get to the crown chakra. Okay, just take that concept and put that into the idea of consciousness, God's consciousness, or the consciousness of God. Same thing. It has different layers, different levels, just like you as a person. Just like you have different layers of your personality, and those layers come out depending on the environment that you're in. And oftentimes you will be in an environment where it is so impinging on you that you'll lash out. You'll explode out in this, like, where did that person come from? And it's the idea that the environment does this. And this is like consciousness. It's an environment, and it affects the soul as the soul moves through the depth. And as you live your life, as you live over many lifetimes, and you recycle back through the incarnation, that happens to the soul, right? You mature. You mature. And the reason why the earth was set up the way it was is this reincarnation loop that stayed on the planet was to keep anybody from moving outside the planet to reflect and grow. So that when you reincarnated as a soul being back onto this planet, you forgot all your previous life. It was removed from you systematically so you wouldn't grow. You didn't transcend into 5D. You stayed right here on the planet, came right back into it, forgot everything that you had learned, and you started your life over again. And you have to relearn all the things that you didn't learn, and even more so. And that just kept going and going and going and going and going. And tonight you're going to find out why. Because it suppresses your growth. It keeps you from transcending into the next layer. Think of densities of consciousness like you do forms of water. Water has 3 forms: solid, liquid, gas. Consciousness has 7 densities, 1st through 7th. Each density, like states of water, has a different consistency than the others, even though they are all essentially composed of the same thing. So just like your experience of water is different for each of its forms, so also consciousness is experienced differently depending on the state of vibration you are in. Density of awareness, knowledge, determines the level of consciousness being experienced. I'm going to open that up in a minute here, but the point being, you can see that. You can see why the captor, the people that had captured us, didn't want you growing. They didn't want you moving through the densities. They wanted you staying in the same density. In other words, the same consciousness environment, so that you would think that all of the afterlife is heaven or hell. That's it. You're not deepening that concept. You just stay with heaven or hell. Just like on earth, you're either a sinner or you're not. Like you believe you're a sinner or you're not a sinner. And you dumb down identity to just, well, you're a sinner, or you don't believe that you're a sinner. And you've dumbed down reality to that idea. You dumb down God to, well, God is this and not that God. This God is this Western God, Yahweh. This is all the characteristics about this God. It's he and all this kind of stuff, right? That's the right God. And then you got everybody else who say that, no, that's not God. And so you have these two people, and that's it. That's as far as their consciousness is going. It's just like, well, my idea of God is right. So there's no growth. And you can begin to understand why this is the case, because the whole point of your soul is to grow and develop over many lifetimes, and you refine. And your vibration, your true essence, gets higher and higher and higher in its vibration. There's a real pattern essence. Do you see how that reflects the chakras? Do you see how that reflects wisdom in life? Do you see how, like, you go through these tough experiences and you learn from, and if you don't learn from those tough experiences, you keep repeating them. But if you learn from them, you don't repeat those tough experiences anymore, because you don't do that anymore. That's called refinement. That's your vibrational energy growing in intensity. And you can see why the controllers wanted you to forget all that growth when you died, so that when you came back into this life, you would never remember anything, and you would have to go through it all over again, creating another lifetime of constant louche, because there's no development going on. And this person is self-loathing their whole life, re-going back over it, because they don't feel like there's any escape, because their consciousness, their awareness has been so shrunk with religion, science, medicine, spirituality. No growth. And when I keep a creature from growing, I can control that creature. If I keep them in a cage, I'm controlling them. And if I keep all of society, all of humanity in a mental cage, right, they ain't going to grow. And I've even got their afterlife told to them. So all of them are expecting the light when they die, and they're going to go right into it. And the light, me as a controller, I've made as a trap. It's all encompassing. In other words, life and death is under control. Do you see the systematic nature of it? Do you see the ruthlessness of it? There's explanation for this and all this. So what I did is I took these different brainwave states, gamma waves, beta waves, alpha waves, theta waves, and delta waves. And each of those represents a different vibration. Imagine that concept simply as consciousness. And each density, as I have here on the left here, where it says density and wave expression, is rendering a more higher and higher frequency, a more and more dense wave. Do you notice here there on the 6th, how dense that wave is compared to number 2, the 2nd? That has a lot of space between the waves. But this density in 6th is high, and then the density in 7th is so high that it's just blackness. That's the idea of the void. I've simply taken those for you to understand, just like your brain has different states that put you in different states, that you see things in different states. It's the same thing with consciousness. And as you change the state, you change the experience. You change the environment. You change what and who you are, because the densities have changed. Just like water. Like I said earlier, you dive deep enough, the density intensifies to the point where it'll squish you. And consciousness expansion is of a similar sense. That's why you have to be grown into it. It'll overwhelm you, blow your mind if you heard the whole thing up front. You are fostered into it. You are, over very long periods of time, brought into awareness, because if you were told the whole thing, shown the whole thing, all at once, blow your mind. No growth, too much, overload, too much. It's like It's like a medication that's supposed to help you feel better, but you take, the whole bottle at once. Well, you take the whole bottle at once, you're going to probably die. You're not going to make it. It's too much. But if you just take just one pill, and just take one pill a day, like taking a red pill every day of information, and you do your discovery, well, you're learning in pieces. Like the first time you heard about what they do to children when they kidnap them, you probably heard a little bit of the story. You didn't hear the whole thing. And you were like, they do what? And then you go in and you begin to explore. And you're like, wait, what am I reading? And then you'll break and say, okay, I don't want to read any more of this. So you'll go away for a week or two, and then you'll come back. And you'll get a little bit more detail, a little bit more. Well, by the time 4 or 5 weeks have gone by, you know a lot more. And you know a lot more because you've been eating it piece by piece, little by little. You didn't gorge yourself and get sick. And you're able to metabolize. Folks, my God, this is exactly what they're talking about in regards to these layers of consciousness. And you, as a soul being from the void, develop just like a baby develops from age 1 to age 20. They just grow, and your soul is the same way. The earth is the same way. The universe is the same way. Consciousness is the same way. This is how you can see the pattern, see the knowledge. That makes sense. All these things are repeating each other because that's what nature does. It loves patterns, and it repeats those patterns over and over and over again. And novelty springs forth. Your life, the universe, the galaxy, Earth. You see? And so I've divided these layers into this idea. Now follow. All is God, and consciousness is composed of 7 densities or expressions according to the C's. First density, inanimate physical matter below the level of consciousness. It consists of primal atoms and basic elemental substance. This is the you guys remember when we studied a little bit of this stuff? When we studied photons and light, and I said wherever you have the light photon moving, you have an electromagnetic space because the movement creates electromagnetism. And we talked about how these two things are conjoined, light and electromagnetism, male being light, female being electromagnetism, and these two combined create a force. And that is a natural tendency to gather. There's this gathering together, sucking together of molecules. This is first density. A natural, self-complexifying, right? It self-complexifies. The light photon moves, the electromagnetics run around it, and then it's influenced by planets, by other bodies, right? The whole thing just goes into motion and self-organizes as it goes, like magic, okay? That starts at first density with these molecules that are naturally attracted and repelled from each other. Welcome to the way a star works. Welcome to the way a galaxy works. Attraction and rejection. Magnetism and anti-magnetism. Sorry, I can't think of the word. So that is what is already happening at the first density. So this is, again, to see in your mind, we're beginning to collect here. The environment is changing. The environment is being affected by the product, the form, whatever those things are in it, affect it. Do you see? Self-organizing. Second density, flora, fauna, plants, animals, and very low awareness humans, usually under 3D control in some way or another. We're going to talk about that. Second density is basic biological drives to live, procreate, carry out survival instincts, dominance hierarchies. These are the lower 3 chakra, organized in upper 2D creatures like monkeys, dolphins, dogs, cats, octopus, horses, elephants. A lot of the hunting type species are moving through 2D. Time doesn't stretch much past the day itself and the urges that go with it. Second chakra, base life concerns. Okay, so this density is the density of like a lion, the density of a slug, meaning the mind, the mind of a flower, the consciousness of a flower, like the flower that follows the sun. That's a form of consciousness. Second density, it's a little bit more dense than first density. There's not that level of organized awareness in the sense of the plant's mind or the wolf's mind. First density doesn't have that kind of complexity. That's second density. But can you see how they're constellating the same concept called consciousness? They're just interacting with it in different levels and in different ways. And so the lion's day, when the lion wakes up, if it's hungry, it goes out and eats. It doesn't think, well, I'm kind of hungry this morning, but I thought about I was going to be eating tomorrow actually, because I saw some of those gazelle running through the field a couple days ago. So I'm going to get Mike over here, and he and I are going to come up with a plan, and we're going to form this hunting idea, and in a couple weeks we're going to carry it out. That's not the way the lion's mind works. The lion's mind wakes up, he's hungry, and he thinks, okay, I want to eat. What's around to eat? And they go and hunt and find what's around to eat. Okay? They're not contemplating consciousness. They're not contemplating the meaning of life. They're not contemplating morality. The lion just sees the pregnant gazelle as a bigger opportunity, a bigger meal, and easier to catch. She's slow. She can't run fast. She's pregnant. The lion doesn't see that as a moral thing. They're not at that level of consciousness. Not there yet. But they have more consciousness than a rock. In fact, a lion has more consciousness in many ways than a slug or a sea anemone. Lions hunt in packs. They can actually group together and be thinking without even talking to each other and form strategies right there in the moment during the hunt. They're not writing that on a chalkboard. That's a higher consciousness. They're just working together and interacting together with their energies right there. Birds flying south or north for the winter. Right? That's a form of consciousness. Right? But the bird isn't thinking like a human being, looking at a map. Okay, let's see. If we leave in late December, we should be arriving up in the northern part of North America in about 2 months. So if we get everything planned out here, we'll start having kids at this time during the season. They're not doing that. Everything is instinct. They're just following patterns. But it's more complex than, like I said, a slug or a rock. Okay? You're developing. And then there are people who are actually in 2D. These are the people that are the obeyers. They never think for themselves. They just do as told. They just do as the local environment demands, just like the lion. They're just doing as the local environment demands. There's no higher thinking going on here. There's no higher concepts going on here. This person has accepted the status quo. Oh, that's what I'm supposed to believe? Okay, I'll go believe that. Oh, that's the correct science? Okay, I'm going to do that kind of science. Oh, that's who I'm supposed to follow? That's God? That's who God is? Okay, I'm going to go do that. That's a 2D person. There's no self-awareness going on there. They're just parroting, obeying. Okay, there are people like that. This is what you need to understand with these densities. It's not a clear cut, just like there's not a clear cut when summer exactly ends and when fall begins. Summer moves into fall. And with consciousnesses, it just 1 moves into 2, 2 moves into 3, 3 moves into 4, and so on and so forth. There's not like, okay, on this day and in this date, that's going to make a change. Okay, on this day and this date, that's going to make, it's not that finite. Nature isn't like that. That's why weather is a prediction. That's why you look at maps and you get kind of idea, but you never know exactly what nature's going to do. It's the same thing with these consciousnesses. Depending on the layer, you have a bigger and bigger view of the lower ones. So my view as a high resonance 3D service to others being, which is what I am, I can see very well what's going on with the lions. I can see very well what's going on with all these 2D morons that are just obeyers and they don't understand the deeper principles going on here. You can completely see that. I'm still in the same consciousness milieu as they are. Temperature, pressure, earth, awareness, things that are available to become aware, but they just haven't got it yet. They ain't there yet. They're going to die ignorant. It's like the person insisting that Islam or Christianity is the Great Awakening. They're going to die ignorant like that and come back. They're going to stay in the web. They won't be thinking anything of these larger concepts of leaving the net, escaping moksha, escaping the web. These people aren't thinking about, they're just thinking, did I say the right prayer to Jesus and am I worshiping the right God? That's their concern. Very small, low density, compressed awareness. Can't you see it? And here you are as a 3D being, just like they're a 3D being, but they're on a 2D consciousness. Here you are, and you can completely see their world, why they're acting that way, why they're frustrated, why they're filled with anxiety, why they have all these problems, and they can't figure things out. You can see it all clearly. because you've worked through life. You've participated and learned the hard lessons. You haven't been obedient, so it's been tough on you. You haven't followed the normal rigmarole. You haven't gone down the accepted, secure paths. And so you have a bigger consciousness than the person who's just been following orders. That's your choice. This is real. These consciousnesses are real. And guess what? There are 4D consciousnesses that are even more aware than you are. And that's why you can capture really smart people like C.S. Lewis. You can capture them with a really good egregore. Even though they're really smart, if you've got a 4D awareness and you know how to manipulate C.S. Lewis, he'll be a pawn. A pawn. Same with any person that exists in 3D. Pawn, if they're not aware. Knowledge is the only thing that's going to save this individual. Awareness. So you can see there are different layers to this consciousness, and you must wisen up or you will be pilfered by beings that have a denser consciousness than you. And if you think you're the smartest thing in the world, my friend, it's the same person that thinks that this whole thing that's going down right now is a controlled operation. They just don't understand the bigger picture. And they've accepted the smaller picture of, well, this is a controlled op. It's all good. No, it's not. You have a responsibility, and you're dumbing yourself down if you've bought into a narrative that was handed to you. Do you see how easy it gets to control an entire planet if you just simply have a denser awareness? If you just simply know how to manipulate these 3D creatures in the same way you as a trapper know how to manipulate raccoons, foxes, mice, deer, cats, whatever. You can set traps, you can set ploys, you can make them move in certain directions on the planet. You can make them move wherever you want them to go because you are operating on a higher consciousness than the lion, the bear, the deer, the whatever. And you can trap them. Why do you think it's any different for you as a person with these 4Ds? The spiritual world. You really think you're smarter than them? Really? Really? You think you know more than they do? And that you're immune to their traps because now you know the plan? Believing that there is a plan and following that plan is being in the trap, just so you know. Just so you know from the outside looking in, if you're following a plan and think there's a plan, you're trapped. You've missed the point entirely. Entirely. This is not a controlled op. We've been given an opportunity with an environment that's conducive to awareness. Are you going to join in? Or are you going to just say, no, it's all good, man. I got a savior coming. I'm good. Follow? Bigger plot. Dominance hierarchies organize in upper 2D creatures like monkeys, dolphins, dogs, cats, octopus, horses, elephants, etc. A lot of the hunting type species. Time doesn't stretch much past the day itself and the urges that go with it. Second chakra, base life concerns. Third density, self-awareness and choice, where human beings and equivalent beings operate. Awareness is that of a volume, but it is experienced as the illusion of solid three-dimensional matter, linear time, space, and quantifiable separation. It is the realm of polarity lessons. Self-identity. You guys are going through this. You know exactly what this is. Service to others versus service to self. And the thickest veil of forgetfulness. Third chakra, will to power, awareness of choice, gender expression. This is where choice interferes with the instinct and the imagination, you see. Interferes. It's a deeper consciousness. Third density, service to self, and third density, service to others. So here's where things start getting complicated. And we'll get more into this as time goes, but just to introduce you. In the Cassiopaean mythology, there are two orientations that tie into our incarnation here on this planet. And so there's no way that I could explain all this to you right all on the front end. So I'm going to explain this to you in pieces. And by the time I get to the end, you'll understand. But there are different ways of explaining this STO, service to self, service to others, modality. And so in order for you to understand human origin, which was where this is all going, and I'm going to explain to you, In order to understand it, you need to understand the ideas of service to self and service to others. In a general sense, when you're on this operating of 3D, past 2D, where there's moral issues, there's behavioral issues, there's societal issues in getting along, and this overall idea of cohesiveness, that we're going to destroy each other, that comes out of duality and a higher consciousness of that. Okay, there are two basically energies, gravities, that the Cassiopaeans talked about when it comes to a higher and higher consciousness. And you can tend to go one way or the other. Their theory was that a person in their soul has a tendency to go towards ideas of service to self, which is power, authority, usurpation, consumption, okay? And then there's the other side, the other kind of individual, which is more like the sage, the person who gives their time, their money, their energy, their ethos to others. They're not self-consumed. They're consumed with helping others. That's what concerns them. Their concern is bettering themselves so that they can be a better service to others. The person who is bettering themselves in order to serve themselves, meaning their bank account, their power, their authority, their echelon, where they're at in the power structure of the world. You see, their motivations are different than the individual who is doing those tasks, quote unquote, in life for the betterment of others. Two totally different philosophies. One person is moving towards, meaning the service to self, is moving towards better life for themselves, more concern for themselves, more food for themselves, more money for themselves, more freedom for themselves, because they're buying it by getting more money and more power and more authority. And this gives them the feeling of being alive. This gives them the feeling of fulfillment when they close that financial deal, the real estate deal. They feel like they got their kill, they got their money, and that gives them this feeling of accomplishment, fulfillment. That's why I'm here. I'm here to compete and beat that other competitor. And that gives them this feeling of fulfillment, happiness. And then you have the other person who there's no conflict. Everything's about contrast. How do I better this environment? How do I encourage others to win without being myself concerned to win? How do I help their life so that they can then realize what it is they wish to realize? And that gives me fulfillment as a service to others. It's a totally different approach. It's a totally different philosophy, but both are just as difficult. Both are just as difficult. And in many ways, open mind now, open mind, worthy pursuits. What's wrong with bettering yourself, self-empowering, so that you have greater control, greater money, an easier life? If you're service to self, you're doing it, right? But there's no fulfillment to a person who's service to others in that. So if you take a person who's oriented to service to others and give them all kind of money and power and so on and so forth, they're not going to keep it. They're going to be giving it away. Their empowerment won't be coming from that bank account increasing. It's going to be coming from that bank account depleting, because they're seeing how it's helping others in every possible way. And this makes them so happy. To the person who's service to self, it would be like, what are you doing? You're giving all your money away. You earned that. What are you doing? And they don't have any fulfillment from giving that away, because it's all about bettering their life, mooring their power, increasing their hierarchy, consuming others. And you people know this, meaning everyone watching this knows this. You see pricks all over the place. You see people that are completely self-consumed all over the place. Look at George Soros. Look at Michael Aquino. Look at Barry Soetoro. Look at these people who have been leading the world. Look at how self-consumed they are, power-oriented they are. Virtually every leader that's ever lived is like this, because people who are service to others typically don't want to be a leader. They don't want to be in charge. Do you follow? They are in it for the collective. They're not in it to run the collective. They're there to be a part of the collective and better the collective by removing themselves more and more from it and giving more and more of themselves away. Okay, and so the Cassiopaeans have a theory that every single person that exists has a bent a natural inclination, drive towards one of those, because you really can't have one and be the other. You're really more oriented to bettering yourself, or you're more oriented to bettering others. There's not a whole lot of middle ground there. There's some, absolutely, it's an open world. I get it. But you kind of tend to go one towards the other as you age and get older. You understand and find fulfillment. Okay. Now we're going to build on that. Service to self, lower vibration, conflict-oriented, takes life from others, dominance-obsessed, greedy, accomplishment-driven, insensitive, argumentative, intolerant. Third density service to others, higher vibration, gives away their life to others, contrast-oriented, compassionate, sensitive, nonplussed, tolerant, and reasonable. And you guys know, just looking at this, which one is more humane? Which is the more humane philosophy? Which one is more culturally oriented? The betterment of the culture. Can I be oriented to the betterment of the culture if I'm completely consumed with myself? I'm always going to want a piece of the game. I'm always going to be putting myself into it. It's always going to be myself-oriented because I'm self-consumed. I'm serving myself. Whereas if I'm serving for others, I am here for the sake of others. You see, that you can't really mix these two things together. Now, continuing with the thought. All is God conscious. Oh, we read that. Okay, fourth density. Now, the first density that this is the first density that includes variable physicality. The ability to alter physical form and environment by thought, becoming visible or invisible upon request, or shifting between solid and ethereal states. It is inclusive and master of all lower densities. Keep that in mind. Time is no longer strictly linear, but still exists in some kind of form. Beings can move through what we perceive as past, present, and future. It is the last density, final destination, and flowering of full manifestation of service to self orientation. So if you're a service to self individual, this is as high as you get. And you're going to find out why. I'll explain why in a minute. But this is as high as you can get, meaning that you can incarnate into a demon from a human being. That's what it's saying. You become so service to self oriented, so self-consumed, that when you die, you crystallize into that and become a demon. You become, the fourth density is the third without form or time, without implicit time. So fourth density, you no longer have to have form. It's a spirit being, right? And time is negotiable. It's there, but it's not implicit like it is for the first density and the second. It's moving into this other orientation where it's not really as finite, which is why those spirits can move forward and backward in time all the better to control our environment and therefore control us. It's a higher density. And so it's very easy as a fourth density creature to have great control over third density. I mean, think of the revere that people have for spiritual beings. Think of the power of those spiritual beings when they entice them in a satanic ritual. Think of the power that comes to that space. Think of the power that is enticed in the space of a service to others, like at a big concert, and everybody is in a state of love and experiencing music and this beautiful experience one together. There is an energy there that isn't there without that collective. It's a bigger consciousness. And all of those people together and in a state of love and high vibration, listening to music and going along with it, right? That's power. That's power. Just like that musician that's singing up front in front of that crowd is essentially the leader of that movement. They have great power and influence just because of their art and being a part of this movement. And it's the same thing with the other side of those energies. I can be an individual with some talent that I have, and I can bring that to a ritual, and I can raise the dead. I can raise satanic beings with my power that I carry. If I'm service to self and I'm wanting to use those beings to my advantage so that I get what I want, see, that's a ritual. I am enticing the fourth density, a higher thinking, a higher awareness density into the 3D world for power. This is where the Cassiopaean philosophy fits right into this idea of these tribal systems that came up with the KM and this idea of eating God and so on and so forth. These came out of these rituals that these beings in 3D used to entice 4D into this world. And 4D has power in this world, which is why they can have such a global influence on the world. They're directing these spirits using three-dimensional energy and utilizing fourth-dimensional power to manipulate the planet. Do you see how this is becoming a larger and larger and larger picture than the dumb ones that the controllers gave you, than the dumb ones that the pastor gave you? They're handing you a smaller world, a contained world. They're giving you the controlled option, and you're putting it in your hard drive and clicking load. Basically, they're handing you a disk drive. And you put it in, click load, okay, there's the reality. And that's as big as you get. Do you see how when you move into these different layers of density in regards to consciousness, how you're going to leave that small consciousness you were programmed with pretty quick because you see the logic of the larger picture. Now let's continue. It is the last density, the final destination and flowering of full manifestation of service to self-orientation. It is the point where overlapping densities can cause bleed-through effects into third density, which is our experience, phantasmological, paranormal, parapsychological, angelic, demonic, spirit worlds. And this is the heart chakra. That's where the heart chakra is at that fourth density. Okay? The higher spiritual density that's beyond moral law, that's beyond choice, that has moved into higher states of awareness and being, where the person is no longer fumbling in moral law, fumbling with who they are, fumbling with what reality is. They're not fumbling along like they were in 3D, 4D. These things clarify. You're moving past time. You're moving past form. You're moving into a higher existence that doesn't fumble, fidget with words, with finality, which are the obsession of 3D, and which 2D is hardly even cognizant of. Do you see the graduations? It's very important that you see the graduations. Fourth density, service to self. Beings must eat what is called loosh to exist, because they do not have nor want the expansion and self-replenishing energy of love. They depend on loosh like a human depends on food for nourishment and vitality. A network of loosh farms exists everywhere in the universe. There are entire races of alien species, some Nordics, some insectoid, all lizzies, are of the STS 4D type and must constantly farm and harvest loosh to sustain their 4D non-physical existence. These are beings that have no set physical costume. They have an entire innate race, personality, and soul typical, but no final form. They simply take on the costumes they evolved from in 3D. Their temperament, way, take, and sense of things all carry over. Flesh does not sustain them. Essence sustains them. Flesh is almost useless to them, as they are spirits, demons. They completely depend on loosh to exist. Okay? So what I'm wanting to understand before we move to fifth density, which is totally different than that, with fourth density, what you need to know is a higher density feeds on a lower density. So us as three density people, human beings, we feed on two densities. So we eat animals, we eat plants, we eat the lower density. Plants and animals eat the first density. They eat minerals, they eat basic compounds, they eat other plants. Okay, just like we will eat higher resonance 2D creatures. But you know, it gets kind of nasty when you think about it, because think of the person who understands the awareness level of a dog or a horse or a cat. Do you see how eating that becomes more and more revulsive because their consciousness level is of a higher or greater sort, greater and greater sort? And a person who understands this begins to understand that eating a higher and higher consciousness becomes more and more revulsive to the person who is oriented to others, not oriented to self. You can see how a self-consuming individual, like one of these satanic creatures, they have no problem sacrificing a high consciousness 3D being because they're going to take that energy. That's why they're doing that. They're a service to self. And so they see all these higher density creatures than them as food, as a means to advantage themselves so that they can move up in density into that fourth dimension density, which is the crystallization of the self. And so the individual that spends their 3D existence eating, consuming, and fulfilling their life through self-consumption and consuming that of others, the energy of others, you can see how they crystallize further and further into a larger and larger monster. Consider George Soros, where he spends all day long, every single day. Think of the media people on television. They spend all day long, every single day, doing nothing but oppressing people, taking from people, stealing from people. All day, every day. They develop entire plans to usurp, take over, and objectify entire nations of people. One person doing that every day. Okay? This is a person who has solidified further and further and further into service to self. George Soros gets off on capitalizing on the taking of others, seeing others die, seeing others be tortured. He likes that. He likes that. The media people, the government officials that are voting against your interests and what is best for the society, they like that. When they go up in front of the Senate committee and lie to your face, they like that. They don't have a moral issue there. They're not struggling like you would. You're seeing them going, how can this person do that? They're lying to my face. They're sitting there thinking, I like this. I want to lie to you. I want to deceive you. I like that. They're not struggling. That's my point. They don't have any remorse. They're like a psychopath. They go out and just find a family and kill them all. No remorse at all. And they like stabbing. They like taking the life. They're not wondering, I feel terrible. They like it. Jeffrey Dahmer. They like have sexual orgies with dead bodies. People. These are consciousnesses that have totally sold out to service to self. And you see them. I'm not talking gibberish here. I'm not giving you a crazy idea. I am formulating an understanding into why these people act like that. Why you see them on the news and think, I can't even fathom saying that. And this person is repeating it. It's because you're not a service to self. You are not congruent with that kind of lifestyle. These two lifestyles, these two 3D beings are incongruent. Incongruent. Incompatible completely. Their entire telos and meaning of life is totally different than yours. That's why oftentimes a person who is oriented to others and is a sage type and so on and so forth, they get around a person who's a big time business person that is out to make money, out to take from others, and out to take and usurp the world. And they can't even hardly stand to be in a room with a person like that. And the person who's like that can hardly stand to be around a person who's oriented to helping others. Because it's like, why would you do that? You are here to advance yourself. What's the matter with you? Why don't you want more money? What is wrong with you? Money gives you power and control. Why do you not want that? They're incompatible. And you can see now why on this planet that incompatibility has been exercised, has been accentuated to make the world even more in conflict and fighting one another. Do you think that's the work of a service to others? Or do you think that's a 4D entity that is working in service to self? And this is why you can see these politicians that go up on stage and just freaking lie to your face. This is how you know why they do that. They love it. They love advantaging you. They love seeing you suffer. They're monsters. And it is because they have, over many lifetimes of 3D, have solidified further and further and further with their soul bent. What came out of the void was not just one or the other, good or evil. Both came out. And there are expressions of both, mixtures of both in the human collective, because that is what we come out of. Do you follow the bigger picture? And when we as a human collective, and I'll explain this in later Saturdays, and as we as a human collective emerged out of the thought of God, that's what the human collective is, the imagination of God, just like an imaginative project in your mind. You manifest it with your work in 3D. God imagined in its mind a being, namely the human collective. Our type of personality, what we find funny, what we find in the world that gives us notice, that we care about, what we tend to gravitate towards. These are personality traits. That's in your soul. Your favorite color, your favorite food, your favorite ideas, your favorite clothing, whatever, that comes out of your soul. That's why you don't decide that. That comes out of your soul, your personality, your bent, and that comes out of the void. You didn't choose any of that. And this is how we came out. And we infused beings. And so as a being, as a living being in 3D, you have personality, traits, ways that you typically go about. And your interests are different than your brother or your sister or your mom or your dad. You have your own way, even with your friends, but you tend to gravitate toward friends who have similar interests, similar things that are intriguing in life. And you just gravitate towards that naturally. You didn't choose any of that. It just naturally, that gravitating, that pull that you can't define, that's your soul. Your soul. And you have this tendency when you were born to gravitate towards these service to self ideas or service to other ideas. It is naturally in you. You didn't choose any of it. You just, if you're service to self, you would just naturally gravitate towards the money-making systems of that world, of the power systems of that world. You would naturally gravitate towards and into that. You just can't help yourself. It intrigues you. You want to be a part of that. And as this unfolds over time, you see what begins to happen. We've got a problem here. We've got an issue here. Because one of these bents is self-destructive. It's self-consuming. It naturally has a tendency to eat the collective, eat itself, and consume itself, and collapse on itself. What is democracy but a 250-year experiment? It's going to tend to collapse on itself because there's a lot of people, and you guys are going to find out why, who are more oriented toward the bents of service to self. And a person has to go through much pain and anxiety and awareness graduation to move from a lower 3D service to self to a higher 3D service to others. And it takes many lifetimes to make that transition. You guys might see where I'm going with this, but it takes many years for that to happen. Now I'm gonna open that up further in a minute, but we're gonna look at 5D first. Now, fifth density is the contemplative or recycling zone, a non-physical, ethereal level where souls embodied in first through fourth densities go after the death of the physical body for life review. I'll explain that in a minute. Hang on. A non-place of contemplation to prepare for the next incarnation or progression. It is etheric, pure energy, no duality. Souls do not remain there permanently. 5D serves as a transitional review depot, a gateway to sixth density SDO, or return to fourth or third density, respectively. Fourth density SDS, here's the key line, can never graduate to sixth density. This is the voice chakra. If a 4D SDS being refuses to transition to service to others, they will become encapsulated in 50, basically totally self-consuming like a black hole, and will remain there until they completely self-consume. Now I'm going to show you the picture here. Let me see if this is, yes, okay. So what you need to know, the fifth density, the Cassiopaeans consider the fifth density like a cylinder edge, like this picture here. The way they illustrate it is that fifth density is like a cylinder, and within the fifth density is the time-space field of the first through fourth densities. And as you go through time, as you traverse through time in the first through fourth densities, you are within that fifth can, or that fifth density, that fifth edge that the sixth density is outside of. This is according to the Cassiopaeans. So within the cylinder of the 5D is the time-space field. Outside the cylinder of 5D is 6D and 7. No time, no space, no field. So the idea of a field, the idea of a space, the idea of a unit, the idea of a capacity, these are all first through fourth density concepts. And then when you begin to move outside of time, space, unit, finality, field. When you move out of that, you're moving through fifth density. This is what came to me as I looked at this and contemplated. This is like reverse osmosis. Now follow. The first through fourth density geometries are within the 5D cylinder. So as a soul spins through different existences in third and fourth, obviously first also, fourth density, they travel along the 5D cylinder edge that encapsulates time and space. You see they're increasing speed. They're increasing in density. Eventually, the speed of consciousness expands through knowledge, pushes the 5D envelope, and compresses through the side of the cylinder via refinement until the edge to finality presses through to 6D. And this was just like reverse osmosis. If you guys know anything about reverse osmosis, the way it works is you have like a cylinder like this. And then you have a water feed that goes into the cylinder in the middle. And then around that cylinder, inside the cylinder, is a membrane, a rubber-like membrane that only lets a few micron size particles pass through it. In other words, just enough for a water molecule to pass through it, but nothing else. The salt attached can't pass through the membrane. And so when the salt, or I should say the water, enters the center of the cylinder, it goes in and it begins to move outwards from pressure. And it moves further and further to the edge of the cylinder. And eventually it moves through, it passes through the edge and comes into the flow that's outside the cylinder. Think of consciousness in the exact same way. Inside the cylinder is the first through fourth D experiences. And this happens over God knows how long, millions, billions of years. You're spinning in that space, in that cylinder. You're spinning in that space through time. And as you reincarnate, you develop speed, you develop mass in the etheric sense, voltage. And you're pushing harder and harder as you spin through your lives, raising your awareness, raising your vibrational frequency, raising your density. Okay, you're doing that. And if you're a service to others, right, you eventually break through. You create so much speed and so much energy in your life, meaning that you live a life that is so compassionate, giving to others, in service to others, sharing the truth, and helping others move into a higher and higher awareness. That becomes your food as a fourth density being. The life-giving, the opportunity, the potential that you render to others in your life as a 3 and 4D spirit being, right, feeds you, feeds your density, raises your vibration in the same way that meditation raises your vibration. In the same way, when you get around others that have high consciousness and you have conversations with them, your vibration raises simply by being around those higher vibrational people, simply by exposing your life to that kind of resonant frequency. Naturally happens. And as you go through life, it builds, and builds. And you're either becoming more and more hardened into a service to self, or more and more hardened into a service to others, meaning crystallization. In other words, as you're moving through the service to others, you stop even having to think about it. You give to others without even trying. Your whole life is spent as a sacrifice giving to others. It just comes out of you. You're not even thinking. You're not even trying. You're just doing. In other words, you're just giving. And your life crystallizes into that. It becomes your food. It becomes your growth. It becomes your awareness. It becomes everything, meaning as a 4D. So as you do that as a 3D being, you eventually move into a spirit. You basically become an angel, basically, for lack of a better term. And you become this being, this spirit that does nothing but continue in what you were doing in 3D. You just have that opportunity then as a 4D spirit, as you have grown, as you have exemplified what it means to be a service to others. And eventually you become like the Buddha. Eventually you become like the great sage, where your entire day, your entire life, your entire existence is to be a part of the betterment of the collective, be a part of the betterment of others, educating others, building others up. Right? And then the 3D low vibration person, they're just feeding on others. And they just get better and better and better at it, like George Soros and Barry Soetoro. They just get better. They control more and more people, more and more money, more and more power, more. And that feeds them. But guess what? You can only go so far feeding off of others. You can only go so far. And when you become a 4D, and you're no longer eating plants and other people and other animals and so on and so forth that a 3D does, and you move into 4D, and you've been service to self this entire way, you just simply become a monster. You become a demon. And you eat loosh. You eat the vitality that you were taken from people as a 3D. You just do it as a 4D demon. In other words, you come right back. And you become what you wanted. You get what you want in nature, do you not? And you come back as a crystallized demon, essentially. Because that's what they want. In the same way the sage wishes to be a service to others in every way possible. That's what they want. So when they die at such a high frequency in 3D, they will crystallize, or they will become a spirit body, a spirit form, and continue doing exactly what they were doing in 3D, in 4D, the non-physical. Time is not essential. Reality, consciousness, environment, vibration, that we as 3D creatures only conceive from time to time. Some people have seen spirits. Some people have seen 4D extraterrestrials. Some people have had discussions with God in their head. Some people have been able to engage in conversations with others through telekinesis. That's 4D. And there's a leaking. There's a bleeding in 3D to 4D. So CERN is able to open portals, gateways into the fourth dimension. And what they've been doing at CERN is exactly that. They've been trying to open up service to self monsters, creatures, demons to come into this world so they gain more power to control all the people, all the food that's on the planet. That's what the authorities are doing. That's the game they're playing. That's what they're doing with CERN. That's why they made that machine. It's a technology to open portals so that they can then bring into this 3D reality 4D monsters that they control through their loose control, through their sacrifice, through their rituals. Because essentially they're a food source for the 4D, because they're having the ritual. They're feeding the children to these beings. They're feeding the population to these beings with wars, needless wars, that massacre millions of people. In other words, these 3D controllers are in cahoots with the 4D beings, spirits, consciousness. They're in relationship to them, and they're using that power to control 3D. This is what they're doing. The Cassiopaeans have laid it all out to you. And so what's happening here in this 5th D, what's going on is when these people die, when these service to self or service to other beings or plants and animals or a material matter dissolves, dies, you move into the 5th D, the 5th dimension, which is like a black hole. Self-contemplation. What is it that I need to learn from all of these lives that I'm living in these lower densities? How do I grow? This is the natural growing. This is the classroom for the spirit. And in the same way we have classrooms for 3D, there are classrooms, quote unquote, or there's a classroom for 4D, for 3D spirits, for 2D spirits. The dog, the cat, the higher density, higher thinking 2D animal, when it dies, it goes to the 5th D. And its consciousness raises, just like you did. Had you grown like that, that's not how we grew, but had we grown like that, that's what would have happened to us. And you go back again and again and again and again, and you grow, refine, and you build your consciousness. Literally, as a being, you build your consciousness over lifetime after another, after another, after another. And eventually you crystallize into these higher levels, layers, consciousnesses. And this is the process. And isn't it interesting how these words, reverse osmosis, tie directly into the spiritual idea? And I thought of that line from Shawshank Redemption when Red says to Andy, that's all it takes is time and pressure. And what got Andy and the Count of Monte Cristo, Dantes, what got them out of their situation? Time and pressure. What is it that refines you as a 3D being, but you're wanting to better yourself for others? Time and pressure. You see, and that's why 3D is so obsessed with time and pressure, because these are pressure points, condensations that build you. That's why you must go through service to self experiences, because as you experience the emptiness that goes with that, the evil that goes with that, the usurpation that goes with that. You eventually see over time that leads to an emptiness. It just leads to more emptiness. It just leads to more hunger. It just leads to more pathology, because it is a taking. It is a vampiric type of existence. And you can only go to such a high vibrational place living off the density, the lower densities of others. You can only get so far. That food chain will only take you so far. And here is the the great separator, which is this 5D, the wheat from the chaff. And you don't leave that space if you are locked in. If you are self-consumed, if you're an obeyer, if you're a parroter, if you never think for yourself and just do as you're told and follow orders, how much consciousness awareness have you built in your life? Honestly, how much have you expanded your consciousness if all you did was read what others said and just believed them and never thought on your own, never thought for yourself? You just took on all the ideas of everybody else and never thought for yourself. Just how much are you expanding your consciousness, practically speaking? Practically speaking. Do you see the logic in all this? And so it's this pressuring, just like reverse osmosis, and you are pushed through the membrane. Seriously, you are pushed through the membrane. And what does that cause? Refinement. All the dross, all the chaff removed through experiences of emptiness, experiences of service to self, experiences of pain. You remove the lack that you've taken on in your life, the bad ideas, the bad concepts, the bad choices that you made. And just like you have contemplation, psychologists and meeting rooms and meditation here in 3D, okay? You have the same thing metaphysically in these 7 densities. You have a place called 5th dimension. And that's the place of contemplation. That's the place of consideration, encapsulation, to prepare for the next existence. And you go to the existence that you harmonize with. Why would nature be any different? So if you're a low density 3D individual who's full of self-consuming service to self, you're going to go right back into the planet or some planet, and you're going to learn lessons that will encourage you to leave, to abandon the service to self idea. And the reason why human beings, the human collective, is so prone, so used to or wanting the service to self is because we came here to have the physical experience. That's why we came here. That's why we incarnated out from the mind of God, to have the 2 and 3D experience full frontal, full capacity. Forget everything and go in and have that material experience. And so we have a bent, we have a posture that leans more towards the physical experience, because that's why we came here. And the lesson is, you must learn that that is an empty space. You must learn what you have forgotten. And you must learn that the only fulfillment in life, the only fulfilling life that you're going to live, is a life that is in service to others, not to yourself. Because if you live in service to yourself, you die of consumption. You die of self-consumption. And you know this. You know this from practical speaking. Any adult watching me right now knows that. And the whole point in life, is it not, to raise your vibration, to move through and learn and move through the chakras? Honestly, folks, anyone who has had the awakening experience, you know this to be a fact. You know one of the realizations you come to in this experience of pain is you come to the realization that, you know what, if I'm just serving myself, it's an empty space. If I'm just always trying to get out what's best for me, what I want, what I like, what I desire, guess what happens? I just self-consume. I implode. I eat myself to death. Nothing left. Just a self-consumed narcissist. That's all that's left. Do you follow? Let's see what the next slide contains. 6th density. Level is characterized by uniform lightness and complete balance between service to others and service to self orientations. You guys, by the way, you guys are not going to believe when I open this thing up. What I am right now, all I am doing is giving you the primers. That's all I'm doing. I'm giving you the surface coating. When we get into it, I am telling you the way this thing unfolds and makes sense of our situation, you really will have to take a couple of days and contemplate it. I swear. You'll have to sit back and rethink a lot of the things that you've been thinking, because this is a much bigger concept. Okay. Lightness here is represented as knowledge. The Cassiopaeans, a thought form civilization, describe themselves as operating from this density. Beings exist as reflections or thought forms for the purpose of balance rather than as fully unified individual entities. No further recycling back to fifth density is needed once you realize sixth density. Now remember, all the space field inside the cylinder, the 5D cylinder, is 1 to 4 densities. The cylinder itself, or the cylinder edge, is the 5th density. And then the 6th density is this one right down here below, far right. No time, no space, no field. Oops, here. So when we look at the 6th density, the Cassiopaeans, a thought form civilization, describe themselves as operating from this 6th density. Again, look at the picture. The Cassiopaeans claim that they are operating as thought forms, not as beings, but as thought forms. And they exist in this no time, no space, no field existence that is outside this cylinder. Remember how often I say God is outside our reality? This is the kind of thing I've been pointing to. This is how it aligns so well with my philosophy. I know that there's no outside or inside, but the point being here that as in this concept of service to self, service to others, there is an outside and inside. There is. And the rim point between the first 4 and the 6th and 7th is the 5th density. And when you die, it's a place of contemplation. In other words, it's a place of compression. Now think of it this way. In our physical universe, what does a black hole do? Okay. A black hole sucks everything into itself. It can't stop eating. It just keeps sucking everything it is. It just eat. Picture that as a service to self being. Now, what is also happening, though, in the black hole is it has jet streams coming off the top and bottom of it. And what are in those jet streams? Dust, particles, the stuff that it's eaten. In other words, a refinement of itself, a refinement of what it is eating. Okay? Now, take that picture. Take that picture. And what do you see? But you see all this debris coming out of the black hole. And then what happens to that debris? It recondenses. It recondenses back into planets, back into stars, back into beings, back into water, whatever. But it is the potential that's there. Take that concept as the 5th density for consciousness. It's gathering all of this energy of these beings in all of existence. And it's compressing. And what is coming out of the 5th density? A reformatting, a refinement of the first 4. And then these recondense in the consciousness sense back within the 5D cylinder. Do you see the exact same pattern playing out at different dimensions? This gives you an idea why it seems to be truth to me. It's playing out these different modalities in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions right here in reality here now. Do you see? The refinement principles, the refinement attitude and posture and layers, the sieve that consciousness is passing through is the same sieve that you as consciousness is passing through. Heavy concept. Heavy concept here. Much bigger than this idea of heaven and hell. 6th density is a realm of unified knowledge and harmony as seen in the 6th chakra, the voice, I am, equivalent to the bodhisattva, the one who gives, suggests, invokes, and awakens the environment. And that's another thing you guys need to know. The Cassiopaeans are not beings. It's a thought form. It's a thought form. In other words, it's the thought of God. That's a good way to see it. There's no essence there. There's no form. There's no spirit there. It is ineffable. And so the Cassiopaeans are that ineffable. And so they are speaking when they said that we are you in the future? Do you see what they're saying when they say that? Because we're all the same thing. So they're us. The development's another way you know that we will transcend. They are us in the future, because there's no time in sixth density or fifth. So as we evolve, this is what gives you hope. As we evolve as a society, as a culture, eventually we're going to get there. That's what it's telling you. Eventually, we as a society, as the human collective, we will realize sixth density. And we all will realize that in our own time, our own pace. We're all together. We're all in this together, no doubt. And that's why those that are more advanced now and are going to make this transition before those that are not, they will then become advisors to those who haven't. This is love. This is connection. This is service to others. We are here to grow with one another. We grow together. We don't grow as individuals. If you try and grow as an individual, self-consumed, you die. You join in the energy, the essence, the oneness, the collective. That's where your life is found. Vitality, intellect, that's where that is found. You see, we're all in this together. Stop thinking in terms of it's all about me. That's a service to self. Stop thinking it's all about your gig and what you think and what you believe and all that. No, we're a collective. We are in this together. We grow and transcend together. And as the ones that are advanced transcend, they will quicken the lower frequency folks that just haven't gotten there. They will help quicken those people because they're going to help bring in these higher vibrational ideas that quicken them. And those people be like, oh God, I never even thought of it that way. It's like a person that sees my KM video for the first time. And they have all these ideas of these secret societies that run things, but they've never been able to put together a cognitive timeline to be like, oh, that's where that came from. That's what the God Eaters was. My hope is that's what we're doing here in this Cassiopaean study. We're getting this bigger picture. So it's like, that's why that's happened. This is the capacity that I can offer that is so much more conducive to the betterment of the society than what I was doing. Thinking it was a plan, thinking that someone's a savior, thinking I'm going to be saved, this kind of thing. You're not helping the society. But you participate in the betterment of the society when you awaken, have a higher awareness, and you can convey to others this bigger picture. And so they don't get lost in the egregores. They don't get lost in the service to self cons that permeate a dominator culture, which is what we live in. Bigger, 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 bigger picture. And this is how you free yourself. Do you see? And then I have one more about seventh density, and then we're going to go to questions. Seventh density is timeless, abundant, no thingness. Do you follow that? No thingness. Essence, no essence, permeating all that does and does not exist in all densities, non-densities, the center everywhere and circumference nowhere. The light one sees at the termination of each conscious physical manifestation is in fact the union itself, according to Cassiopaeans. And this is why you know they built a fake light for when you die. This is why you know why they did that. Because originally what was to happen when there wasn't a net and we weren't in a captured system, you would simply die, float off the planet, and you would move into this fifth density where you would refine, remember your life, become a better and higher resonating being, and then you would incarnate in another planet that's more suitable to your level of incarnation, your level of vibration. And then that planet, that existence, that realm would teach you the lessons like what you learned here on this earth. Your life, as you know, as you grow and mature and as an adult, is a set of lessons. And as you learn one lesson, you go into a harder lesson, which goes into a harder lesson. That's called growth. And so your lessons and complications as an adult are much more complicated than they were as a child. Your problems as a child consist of, oh my God, I got to get an essay done by Monday. Whereas as an adult, oh my God, I got to pay rent by Monday or I lose my house. It's a much bigger conundrum you're in. And as you live life, it complexifies like that. It gets more and more like, holy shit. Sorry for my language. It becomes more like, my holy crap. This is normal. This is growth. And your soul goes through the same exact process. Because when you came out of God, you had to forget. You had to forget, or you wouldn't learn. You knew everything. You have to be able to learn. And so the mind had to empty, which is normal, which is good. And you start at the basic. And we'll go into that next week. Well, I'll talk about human origin because we've covered the densities tonight. And you go into this basic and you learn and grow just in your physical life and your spiritual life. And that's the point. You grow complexify, grow, condense, grow, densify. And you just keep raising that vibration, just like you meditate every day. You're going in, re-raising that vibration, re-raising that vibration. You go out on your run, you're meditating while you run, raising that vibration. You're exercising, staying physically fit, keeping that fitness there. You're just walking the path, walking the path. It's the same thing with your soul friend. It's just on a much larger time scale, much larger time scale. Did you cover that? All eventually merge. The light one sees at the termination of each conscious physical manifestation is in fact the union itself, according to the Cassiopaeans. This is not the simulated warm glow filled with familiar voices and invented to capture you. This light is past that. That's how you can know what the true light is. The light that is past that, the more authentic light. Not the whitish blue color of reflected light like the moon. This is rich, enveloping, conducive light. And it's my hope that as we're in this transition and as the earth moves from 3 to 4D, and we're going to get into all that in the coming weeks, my hope is that that condition of the net is removed. Because it's like if you've got a bunch of problems as an individual and you're never able to see a counselor and talk to somebody about it and work through it, it's going to be harder for you to transcend those problems. It's nice to have a reflecting board, a reflection of your thoughts and feelings to help you see yourself more clearly. And this is very important to your growth psychologically as an individual. And they're the same modality, same kind of pattern as a spirit. And when you die as a spirit, you go to this place for reflection. And if you didn't have that reflection, if you didn't have that counseling office, if you didn't have that individual to reflect back to you yourself, it's very difficult to grow. That's why we've been in a captured state to keep us from growing, leaving the planet, not coming back, because the planet was designed to be a luge farm for these service to self 4D spirits that are exploiting the situation, just like the people that are exploiting the voting systems in California right now. It's all being exploited for its weaknesses by people with bad intentions to change the election to what they want, service to self individuals. It's the same kind of thing with your life. And when your experience, when your environment is captured and pressurized with falseness, with ill truths, with harmful diseases and pathogens, do you see how it stagnates your growth, keeps you from transcending? You never build anything. You always, meaning in your soul, you always are coming back redepleted, forgetful, redepleted, forgetful. There's no growth. And if you guys have you noticed that overall in the general sense of the population, the IQ level and sensitivity level has been depleting for about the last 50, 60 years especially? Have you noticed that? Constant wars, poisoned food, poisoned atmosphere, poisoned philosophy, poisoned governments, you see? And the effect of that has continued. And if you see and look at the average consciousness of most people, it's pretty low. Most people are obedient. Virtually all the religious people in this world are just simply obeyers. They do as they're told, man. They follow the rules. They've never thought for themselves. They're not interested in thinking for themselves. And if you notice right now, what's happening in the big push in the Great Awakening is the big Christianity push, right? The big religious push. And a lot of you people see that. You know why they're doing that? You know why they're doing that? Keep the society dumbed down. Keep them religiously obsessed. Keep them obsessed, which was mentioned in the slides earlier. In other words, sick. Sick. Do you see? Let's go to questions. Let's see what you guys got for questions. Holy shit, we have 900 questions. Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to the bottom because I can't get through 900 questions. And so the last one was Miss Esoterics here. Laura Knight has also been one of the Gateway Children trauma-based testing, shares that in the Wave series. Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading up on all of that and seeing how she's been affected. Yeah. Chuck, what if? Hi, Nature's Amnesis. Oh, I like your little kitty. Chuck, what if you've seen others self-implode due to the stress involved in dedicating their life to others? My father spent his life taking care of children, the sick. Yes, it's because we need balance. Like one of the costly aspects of my parents being really heavily involved in Christianity is that they gave all their time to it. You know, the family time suffers. I mean, I'm not complaining to my parents. I'm not saying they're bad parents. I'm just saying that when you have an enterprise like that that is growing and you got young kids in the house, well, that enterprise is going to steal your time and you must create a balance. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard, but I completely see what you're saying here. And it is a balance. And you also have to understand and remember that we're in a sickly, pathogenic environment. That's another thing you have to remember, is that we're in a sickly, pathogenic environment. And so things are not balanced in the sense that they should be. They are really off kilter. The world has really tended to go in this service to self orientation. I mean, the whole thing is a dominator planet. So the whole ethos, the whole spiritual idea is based in conflict, fighting, and war. So we're really sick, right? And so those that give to others are really putting themselves in a tough place. That's part of the sacrifice of growth. That's part of the sacrifice of growth. You're in a very big plan right now. Chuck, did you previously mention the name Cassiopeia is derived from Greek mythology, the Odyssey, and means she whose words excel? That's amazing. No, I didn't know that, High Verbal. I didn't know that, friend. Yeah, there's the artificial intelligence is going to tie in this. Ooh, I like that. I like that insignia. Artificial intelligence is going to be a part of this. It's gonna be, you guys aren't going to be able to run from it. And people, I think, have the wrong idea about it, but that's okay. Okay, here. What's this? He took his own life when I was 20. Oh, sorry. Anything that's in capital, all capital, I'm assuming is for me. Ooh, this is good. Next week, we're talking about that. We're talking about Lucifer and the human race next week. There is a big story behind that, friend. And once you understand the big story behind Lucifer and people, your mouth's going to drop. Unless you already know Carol. You might already know Carol, the big secret. But I found it out this week. And I understand now. But it's too early. I got to give this to you guys in pieces. I've got to give this to you guys in biteable portions. Because if I lay it all out right now up front, you won't be able to get it all together enough to make a cohesive sense of it. You'll be too lost in one way that you have to continue to read and understand the whole picture of this Cassiopaean enterprise. And then after you hear the story, then it's like, I see, you see? And that term Lucifer is critical to this. Critical. Okay, here's some caps in here. Hi, Shannon. What if you're an STO person who was raised by a wonderful STO parent? How much of being an STO came from parental example and influence versus being refined through the levels? It's all okay. All those things are okay to be influenced one way or the other. You just live your own life. You're responsible for yourself. So good. That's great for you. My parents were very service to others. They really were. And they were wonderful people. I have no complaints about my parents, but they just had a very small perspective of the world. So they were trying to get everybody else to believe like them, to believe like Christianity. And so they're shrinking everyone's brains by teaching them Christianity. They had good intention. My parents had good intention. There's no ill will in my parents at all. They really think that they're helping and being in a service to others. But at the end of the day, they're not. They're hindering the service to others in the sense of the bigger picture. They're helping in the service to others of being a voice of reason and hope for people. You see, it's both. It is not what we need to remember here, and that's important, is that it's not as cut and dry as we've been raised it to believe, because it's not black and white. Black and white is just a picture. The yin and yang is just a picture, the idea. But the whole enterprise is much larger than the yin yang, than the good and evil picture idea. It's bigger than that. So you can't draw conclusions of, well, it was this way, so it has to be this way. Everything blends. It is refinement, like you just said. It is definitely refinement, for sure. And that is the experience of the individual, is refining into this. These are good questions. Let's see. Hi, Crimson Sun. True that the story of God and the devil is just an ancient story of the sun versus me. That's one of the interpretations, but I've got the bigger picture. I'll be happy to tell it to you. It's all part of our awakening here. Chuck, the fifth dimension saying the age of Aquarius, religion is a defo cement light. Well, I'm right there with you. I don't believe religion is a good idea at all. I don't believe it's a good idea at all. Deficient. Yeah. Okay, where's the next all caps? Any questions? I'm looking for all caps. I'm just going over. I'm not sure that Rumble allows the comments at their site. I think they just plug into here, Rumble comments, and then they just disappear into the universe. You got high verbal. Let me tell you something. You guys, when you get the picture of what I have in regards to what the Cassiopaeans say about Lucifer, it's going to be a mind boggler. Your eyes are going to go like, what? Seriously. It's incredible. I came across it this week. Hey, what's going on, Bob? I'm glad you're here, buddy. I miss you. I miss you in chat too. I wish you were in chat more, or in Zoom. From Mumble, just, yeah. The boundary layer, the boundary layer in that fifth dimension is where all this stuff begins to gel. Do we need to be both SDS? That's such a great question. So there's a bit of a puzzle. Now, obviously, the idea is to become a service to others, to be a person, a sage-like individual, because a person who dies service to self, this is going to be a person who thinks that he who dies with the most toys wins. And we know that's an empty philosophy. That's a service to self philosophy. He who dies with the most toys wins. The person who's trying to increase their bank account all the time because they just want to be richer. They're not doing it to help others. They're doing it to help themselves, right? And they're trying to move up in the company by stepping on the backs of other people that are in front of them. Those kinds of people are monsters, and they bring down the collective. But at the same time, as I have the service to others experience, I'm going to enter into some service to self complications, concerns, addictions, issues. So I experience the service to self as I develop as a service to others. There are also service to self characteristics, which are very helpful as a service to others, meaning self-empowerment, because you become stronger for others. You're not self-empowering so that you can raise your position in life. You're raising your power, you're raising your influence so that you can be a greater and better influence to others. You see, so you're engaging in a service to self kind of idea, but its intention is in serving to others. This is the complicated part of existing. And so there aren't flat, cut and dry answers. You will have to exist in your life, go through your life, and learn on your own through your experiences. And you will find that as you orient more and more towards this idea of a service to others, you will find more fulfillment in your life. You will find more peace. You will find more happiness. You will find more and more higher quality relationships with others, because you are an attractor of higher frequency, because you're in the service to others. That's why when you're in the service to self, you're attracting cretins. You're attracting business moguls who have nothing in their interest but building their own portfolio and taking yours from you. Real monsters, right? And it's really nasty, terrible to have to interact with people like that. But that's part of life. You can't live in denial. It's part of it. And some of the qualities that they have are helpful to an STO. It's just they're out of kilter as far as their perspective is concerned. But you align that idea of I'm self-empowering, so I become a more powerful being for the interests of the collective. That's a whole different game. Then I'm self-empowering to better myself so I can increase my money, get more, take more, influence more, towards the negative, to get what I want, my desires, my needs, my wants, ego. You see, but an ego is essential at the same time, because that's how you know who you are. It's tough. No direct answer. And that's why I want to encourage in all of my tribe or group, us here. Okay, what is STS and STS? Service to self and service to others. A service to self individual is egocentric. A service to others is exocentric, or oriented to others' needs, wants, what is best for them, building society for the betterment of others. And you build society for the betterment of others by building yourself better, right? Right? You engage in challenges, challenge yourself so that you become a higher and higher and more refined individual. Service to others. Couldn't even imagine it. Past thought. No. The firmament that maybe you're thinking of would be the net that was put there as a loose net to catch our soul so that we were never allowed to leave. The planet has been run as a caged farm, and that's not just your 3D. I'm talking 4D. So that when you died, as your soul left the body, you went into a trap, namely the light at the end of the tunnel. And they put familiar voices based on your consciousness. The system to capture you is set up to read what you remember. When you leave your body and you die, before you go through into the light, you haven't been shocked yet. So you still have all your memories from your life. So as you're leaving, you remember the people you met, the experiences you have. And as you're traveling out as a light being, all of this is in you. You have that sense. But when the person left the planet, beginning to float out, there was a net in place, or maybe there still is, a net in place to capture you and direct you electromagnetically to the light. And as it's directing you, it's reading your thoughts. It's reading your familiarities. So that as you get closer and closer to the light, you start hearing those voices, that familiar voice of your father, your mother, and you hear them calling to you. You hear the voice of whatever God you're worshiping, Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, whatever. You start hearing that voice that's familiar to you, that you've imagined in your head, because these 4D creatures can read your mind. They can read your existence. They're more advanced than you. It's like a really good psychology can sit in front of somebody for 5 minutes. They'll tell you if they're lying to them or not, because they're really good at reading body language. Okay. And so these 4D beings are really good at reading your soul and what has been put into it, programmed, accepted into it over your life. And then they just replay that back to you as familiar scenes to suck you into the trap. So you think, oh, I'm going home. Oh my God. And you think you're going home. You're not. You're going straight back into the earth. They're gonna zap you, take all your memory, and plug you right back in the reincarnation loop on this planet, and you never leave. And that's been the case for thousands and thousands, well, for 309,000 years. We're going to get into human history next week. Got it? The idea of a firmament is to dumb you down. The idea of flat earth, these kind of things, is all to shrink your consciousness. In the same way of thinking that reality is just the universe, it's just spheres. That shrinks your consciousness to the idea that the universe is all that there is. No, there's many universes. There's outside the universe. There's outside dark matter, right? So by thinking there's a firmament, thinking that there's a plan, shrinks your consciousness to the plan, to the size of the firmament, to what they tell you, to shrink your freaking brain. That's why science is the way that it is to shrink your brain. Hi, Philip. How's it going, buddy? It's good to see you, my friend. Here we are. Yeah, you're going to be surprised when I tell you the other story about mining gold next week, because that's just a story. I'm sorry to tell you. It was much more sinister. That story was told to you so that it wouldn't be as bad as what it really is, but the actual true story is even more sinister than that. I'll tell you guys next week. You're welcome, friend. No. Service to others is one type of person, and a service to self is another. And I've described those to you. And there are tendencies. I'm not saying that there's a person, every person is either all STO or all STS. I'm saying we are in transition. We are in the human experience. Okay. So everybody's in a different place in life. Everybody is having a different experience in life. This is normal. Okay. So everybody is at a different level in their STO and STS. What's their orientation? What motivates you in life? You can ask yourself these questions. What brings you fuel? What excites you? What gives you a reason to get up in the morning? Why is the reason that you get up in the morning? These kinds of answers will begin to show you if you are steering more towards a self-consuming lifestyle and ontology, or a giving to others type of lifestyle and organization. Just look at your life. Look at how you've organized your friendships. Look at your life in general, your vocation. This will begin to show you your values. And so the idea is over many, many hundreds, maybe thousands of lifetimes, you refine into a higher and higher state, a higher and higher vibration, so that you are cohesive with these higher densities. This is the logic. So that me as a 3D being right here, as I'm meditating, contemplating, helping others, showing compassion, loving myself, loving my wife, loving my family, I'm raising my vibration. As I go through life, I'm sharing love, spreading love. I'm doing things that better those around me simply for the fact that I want to help those around me. I want to be an asset to those around me. I am raising my vibration. Can you guys see that? Can you see that? You're raising your vibration. You're raising your awareness. That is real. It's not just new age talk. That's real. You're raising your vibration. Okay. When you die, like I said, I've said thousands of times, there's a wake that follows you. That's your vibration. That's what you've been doing. That's the turbulence that you bring into the world. The wake. Okay. And it has energy. And so when you die, all this energy of your life, what kind of a person have you been? Have you been an ass? Have you been kind? Have you loved others, or have you taken from them? Have you been trying to improve yourself and better yourself for the world? Or are you just doing that to make more money? Are you cheating on your spouse, being dishonest with your kids? Are you living a life of fraudulence? Are you a coward, living your life one way and believing another? Or are you a pure, authentic individual and you authentically share your life and better others? You go out of your way to the betterment of others, right? Okay, this happens over your life. You work that out automatically. What are your choices? What direction do you go? Now imagine you've created that vibrational atmosphere. You've created it through your choices, what you chase, okay? What you're going after, why you get up. You're creating vibration, okay? Nature is compliant with that, so that when you die, nature says, just like a recruiter says, okay, well, this is this kind of person. This is the kind of thing they like. This is a job that they would probably like. Okay, stick them in. And so the recruiter puts you in to a job that's in keeping with you. Nature, when you die, when you're not in a soul trap, when you die and you go to the fifth dimension, nature reads your energy. Naturally, just reads, what do you like? What kind of a person are you? No choice here, just what are you? And then what happens, you come out of that fifth dimension, you come off of that ring that you're spinning on, move into the fourth dimension, you naturally are moving into vibrations that are already in keeping with who you are. Naturally. Like attracts like. So you will form, you will incarnate into a body, into an environment that is conducive with the level you're at. Because that's the vibration, that's the vibe you're giving off. And nature will land you in tune with your vibe. Where were you? With your vibration, with your soul. And the point of this is so that as you incarnate time and time again, you raise your vibration higher and higher and higher. And as you do that repeatedly, you become a higher density being, and you transcend densities, consciousnesses. That's the point. That is why you're here. That's the bigger picture. Raising your frequency, working to help the collective and help the human experience, the human experiment, develop itself as we all grow together and go together into these higher and higher transcendent realms. There is no end. There is no destiny. We go together. We're in this as a group. No one gets left behind. You might be here for a lot longer than someone else, learning the hard way and reassociating your life to a service to others. Okay, that might happen, but we're all in this together. And that's why the ones that graduate early, the ones that catch on, that are sensitive and crystallize into the service to other idea, they will simply form the role of helping those that haven't gotten there yet, which is exactly what they did for Laura. Those minds, those creatures, those human beings that went through the system quicker than others, they then help. They're coaches, voices of reason, But they don't impede on your will, and they don't impede on your decisions. They just impede on your environment. They change your environment so that you have the opportunity to change your way and grow. Move out of self-consumption and move into this idea of giving and serving others as your capacity. That's the role of the human being. And the whole point of your life is to raise your awareness. You do the homework. You do the hard work. You endure the hard experiences, not only for yourself and your own benefit, but for the benefit of everybody. The benefit of everybody. And is that not a beautiful life? Is that not a beautiful life where your entire existence is for the betterment of not only yourself, but others? Being a better person yourself so that you can be a better person to others, not so that you can take more, not so that you're a better conniver, steal, no, so that you are a better, more compassionate individual, a more giving individual, a more loving, tolerant individual. These are the high frequencies, folks. That's what's going to feed you. You're never going to get fed feeding off of others, feeding off of their losses, feeding off of their sorrow and fear. That's never going to feed you finally, which is why these STS beings that have graduated and crystallized into demons, they don't go any further. They die of self-consumption. You cannot transcend with this idea of vampiring everything around you. That's not how you grow. You stay there. You stay at the level of that which you're eating. You never grow. Big picture. Big picture. Chuck, would you mind delving into the afterlife for someone that committed suicide? My father, who was always in service to others, chose that escape when I was 20. I remember, no. Everything's completely fine. It's completely okay. This dark idea that the church, I remember growing up asking my dad if I committed suicide, what would happen? And his response was, well, you'd get to heaven, but you'd get there by the skin of your teeth. Like it is really frowned upon, which is a shaming way of handling that very delicate situation. And so in my mind, this is simply an individual who takes their life, who hasn't realized the deeper perspectives, and they have gotten lost in some self perspectives. They could be a perfectly good person, very kind, very loving, but they don't have a large enough perspective. And so they've gotten caught up in a smaller perspective and have thought that taking their own life is a better choice. And it's a perspective issue. They haven't realized a bigger picture. And so they think that's a viable option, and it's not. There's more growth there. They're completely fine. They just go back into the process of refinement, just like you, just like me. When I die, I'm pretty much assuming that I still won't learn enough to fully crystallize in a service to others, but I'm making effort to get there now. My work here is really to try and help the collective, the betterment of everyone. That's why I'm here. But I don't get the illusion or get the thought that somehow doing this, now I've got the e-ticket to 4D. No. It's just this is a better life. Giving your life in service to others is a better life than giving your life in service to yourself. And that's why. And so there's no shame for someone who does that. It's sad. It's absolutely tragic. And we don't want that. It's absolutely tragic. We don't want that. But there's no shame. There's no shame at all. There's no shame at all. We love these individuals, and it's just really sad that they got to a point where they felt like that was a better choice. And it's a perspective issue, because you wouldn't think that that is a better choice if your perspective was wider. Do you see? And it's okay. We all have to grow and learn. We all have to make these steps. Hi, Max. It's good to see you, buddy. Love you too, my friend. Miss you at Zoom. Hope to see you Sunday. We'll be there tomorrow. If you want to come, it'd be great to see you. So it's not. It's suggestive. An STS would be manipulative. A service to others would be suggestive. So an STS individual would come at you and be like, well, you better believe this or you're going to hell. So they're using fear to manipulate you. Whereas a service to others would come to you and say, hey, have you ever thought about a larger contemplation or a larger idea of consciousness? You're opening a conversation. You're not manipulating anything. You're opening a conversation. Hey, let's have a discussion about higher consciousness. That's an STO derivative. An STS is trying to get someone to think like you, believe like you, assume like you, follow you, obey you. Those are service to self orientations. Yes, wholeness. And that's why, as a service to others individual, you will experience experiences of service to self in your life. And this is normal. That's how you grow. It's okay. Yeah, it's pretty endless there, Bob. Good point here. That's why I said just a few minutes ago, just look at your life choices. Look at yourself right now. What's your motivation for waking up in the morning? Like when you get up in the morning, what are the first thoughts that go through your mind? When you go to bed at night, what are the last thoughts that go into your mind? When you talk to another individual, what's kind of the tenure of the discussion? Where does it go? Do you often end up arguing and yelling about your frustration and hatred of the world? Or do you often end up talking about solutions and ways that you can better the world and ideas that you're engaging that better others? Where do you often land? I'm not saying it's a determining factor. I'm just saying to get an idea. What are your goals in life? What are you striving for? And where do those lead to? Right? When your friends, what are they like? What are the goals and orientations of the friends that you have attracted to yourself? What kind of people do you attract to yourself? Do you attract people who are haters and loathers? Or do you attract people who are like-minded to you, maybe deeper thinkers, contemplators, non-judgmental type? You'll find folks that are really intolerant and judgmental. They will attract others who are like that, and they will engage in arguing with each other all the time because that's where they're landing. And so that gives you a clue as to where your vibration is. Are you having to force yourself to help someone else? Are you like, okay, I really don't want to help this person, but I'm just going to do it anyway because I have to. All right. That's a totally different idea than the person's like, I want to help this person even though I know it's going to be nasty. I'm going to learn this experience and let's go for it. Totally different approach. The same thing. Shan, let's you and I talk, buddy. We'll talk. We'll work this out. Who's this? Hello, Garuda. Gregaruda. The collective has the karma secret service to the collective. Yeah, a little bigger picture than that, my friend. We will get to it next week. I cannot wait to tell you guys about. Yeah, here. Thanks, Matt. Yes, you are correct, Matt. You are correct. That's why we're in the situation that we're in. Yeah, good way to put it. Very good way to put it. We are next week hopefully going to get organized, a little bit more organized with our questions so that you guys will get more of your questions answered. Chuck, what advice would you give for being STO, especially for those around religious zealots who keep pushing their religion at every opportunity? I would always, if you could, when it comes to religious zealots, I would always try and have a conversation with them that is nonplussed. And that might not be possible. And if that's the case, if they're that fanatical, then there's no hope. If a person is completely down the river, and they immediately resort to like that guy that promotes flat earth, and he just yells and curses at people who don't go with him. His defense is anger, lashing out, and calling people idiots. That can give you right there an idea of just how mentally verklempt he is, just how small his brain is, because his go-to is anger and hate and yelling at people. That's how you can get an idea of where a person is in their STS or STO. When they convey to you their convictions, are they also degrading you if you don't go with it? Do they go out of their way to curse at you and call you an idiot when you don't go along with them? That's a very STS individual. So you would know then anything that this individual is really pushing is likely going to be an STS enterprise. And that's how you can know when someone's a real freak. Just look at all the things that they really push hard and how crazy they are about it. It then immediately tells you how small, how thin their brain is, because they resort to STS behaviors, hatred, fear, oppression, threat, to make their point. And anybody who has to do that is very small-minded STS. They just haven't grown. That's why the child will sit and argue with you at the sandbox. They haven't realized, look, there's tons of sandboxes. There's no need for us to argue about this. We can get along fine. The child hasn't grown yet like that. And the person who's a religious zealot doesn't realize, look, spirituality is much bigger than the religious idea that you've been given. But by God, if you won't leave the sandbox, then of course you're going to argue with everyone that's there. Small mind. And so the way you can best help those people is to love them, to just be a voice of reason. And when things start turning south, don't continue that conversation. This is the way you can love them. Help try and be a voice of nonplussed reason in their life so that they can actually have a cognitive thought that isn't self-destructive, self-defeating, and self-consuming. You were exactly right, Catlin. Okay, continuing. Round earth doesn't change what's within. You are correct, Craig. Thank you. Thank you. Chuck, I think Shan was referring to, since we are all one, then service to others is also a service to self because we're all one. We all have both of these in us. Okay, we emerged from the void, from God's mind in a balanced sense. Follow this now. We emerged in a balanced sense. It's very complicated. I'm going to tell you the story next week, but we came out whole. The human spirit, the human intellect, that which animates you, is a holism. It's holistic in its sense. So it has both STS and STO, negative and positive energy in it, already there, and both in full, not one or the other, both equally. Okay? And so when this balanced sense incarnates into a being has kind of its own environment, its history, all that have been a part and parcel of its development. So that also is a part of that being. And when a soul enters this situation, you have two personalities. You have the personality of the soul, which knows everything, is everything, understands everything. And then you have the limited conscious being who doesn't. But they have kind of their take. They have a certain color hair. They have a certain color shape, kind of shape. They have a certain skin color. They have a certain interest in stuff. And these coincide with the DNA that comes through not only the biology, but the spirituality. Because the story of the Cassiopaeans is that the DNA was changed when humankind incarnated into a being. And that being's DNA gelled with the God consciousness DNA. That's why we're biometaphysical. That's why your pineal gland has, as a biological organ, accesses 4D. It's because our DNA, see how cohesive the story is, our DNA, 3D DNA, mixed with 7th or 6th density, I guess it'd be 7th density DNA, quote unquote. And that changed. The DNA, according to the Cassiopaeans, naturally rearranged itself instantaneously the moment the spirit entered the body. We're going to get into this next week. And it was that change in the DNA that oriented that being from just being this service to self. Like the consumption of the lion is its own concerns. The lion pack leader is not concerned about the being of all the other lions. The main lion leader is concerned about itself. He's not looking to tend and care for the kids. He's not looking to tend and care for those that are his rivals. And he's not looking to tend and care for his mates. They are there to mate with, and then they raise the kids. That's his job. He's not thinking about compassion at all. Okay? That's what we were. That's what we were. There was no, it was all survival instinct. We were beings that were developing on this planet. There's a whole story. I'll get into it next week. And there's no soul there. There are beings on this, in this world, in this universe, namely clones and so forth, and reincarnated beings from rituals and so forth, like what happened in that movie from Stephen King, where the beings came back but they had no soul. Okay, those beings exist. They have no soul. These are service to self. A clone is a service to self. The service to other comes out of the 7th density. I know everything comes out of the 7th density, but just try and bear with me here. It comes out of this 7th density pure. It hasn't been influenced at all by 3D. 2D, 1D, 4D. And so when it incarnated into a 2D, a 2D, advanced 2D being, which is what we were, when the spirit incarnated it, that's when all the hair went away. That's when the skin color changed. That's when the modality of life changed, because all the DNA changed in this being. It was a creature living on this planet. I'll give the scenario next week. A creature living on this planet, and it incarnated the Spirit of God, incarnated and changed the DNA. This is what they're talking about in the Garden of Eden, the entering into finite knowledge. The Garden of Eden of knowing right and wrong, entering into finite knowledge. That's the incarnation of the human spirit 309,000 years ago, according to the Cassiopaeans. And we have been here for this long, looking like this, like this. I'm going to tell you the whole story next week. But the point is that, and this is probably why Shan was bringing that up, both influences are there. We're in a holistic world. Nature is holism. Okay, there's service to self, there's service to others in there. Just like there's black and there's white in there. There's good and there's evil in there. In the enterprise, in the field. In the field as I showed you earlier here. Here, this. Okay? Good and evil, right and wrong, up and down, in and out, time, no time. That's all encased inside the cylinder. It's all part of it. It's a holistic enterprise. And the meaning of life is refining into a soul, a being that is united with all that is. That's what you're moving back towards. Orienting to others, service to others, orienting to others, not the self. You orient to self, you isolate, you self-consume, you fanaticize, you go crazy. That's not your innate. Your innate is human being. Human beings are pack. We're all together. We work together. We develop together. That's a service to others orientation is the most cohesive to that kind of group. That's us. When we revert to service to self, we self-implode. We self-consume. We become addicts. We become fanatics. We go crazy. You guys see this. That's what happens to a service to self individual. They become a psychopath. They murder others. Mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. They take, suck, eat. That's what they do. They're a black hole. And a person who doesn't learn their lesson and goes further and further and further into service to self, you can't get out without greater and greater catastrophe. Imagine the catastrophe George Soros would have to go through to change his way. It's not going to happen. Vibration is too strong. His low vibration, his low frequency is so strong. It's like those low frequency energies like radio waves, like small shortwave. They can just travel so far because their wavelength is so enormous. And it's like that with these service to self individuals. They're very powerful because they have been eating the power of those who they have been consuming. It works. It works. And they're eating more and more, and they're gaining more and more powerful. And then they go into the spiritual realm and they do the same thing until they totally self-consume. In the 5th D, they totally self-consume. And the person who's oriented to others, service to others, see, they just keep expanding. There's no consumption happening there. They're just expanding, 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 expanding. It keeps going until there's no more form there. There's nothing left. The form has dissolved. It has expanded into the greater realm. Do you follow? More questions? You guys got more questions? We're almost done for the night. I think it's been a really good night tonight. Yes, imagination. This is such a beautiful question. So perfect. Yes, the imagination is the most powerful force in the universe. The human imagination, the human creative spirit. That's what we come from. We come from the creativity of God, the creative, imaginative spirit of God. This is why it's our greatest asset, because that's what we incarnated from, the imagination of God. That's what we come out of. And so, yes, you can, without an imagination, you can't imagine a bigger world. And you're only going to be able to enter a bigger world if you can imagine it, because the world becomes what you imagine. The world becomes what you think. Your limitation is your thought. Have you gotten that yet? In 3D, your limit is your thought. Wherever your thoughts stop, there's your limit. What is your imagination? Your imagination is to break through thought, break through the limitation. Is it not? Right? And so what is the asset you have that is your greatest asset to realizing a service to others? Imagining that world and becoming it. How can you become a world you can't imagine? So if you want the world to be this expressive, self-generating, no louche environment filled with loving and compassionate people and individuals, you must start thinking of that now. Now. You set the course. You set your vibration with what you think about. What do you meditate on? What is your life telos? Where are you headed? And the greatest way you can realize that is by imagining it and becoming that. It's like the inventor. Who are the people that change the world? The inventors change the world because they invent things that haven't been imagined yet. They invent things that haven't been created yet. It's like the cotton gin. Until the cotton gin was invented, they were hand-picking cotton. No one had imagined in their mind a machine where you could literally do the work of 1,000 people in a day with just a simple turning machine. That's all you needed. Someone just had to think of this idea of how do we stretch, how do we remove the seeds from this really kind of Velcro-like cotton. And as soon as the gin was invented, they just advanced that further and further. And now, you know, that whole enterprise has been transformed because Eli Whitney thought of the cotton gin. And how did Eli Whitney think? His imagination. Most powerful force in the universe. That's why we as nature creatures, we have to imagine the world I'm talking about. Connecting to one another. Nature creature came out of my imagination. The whole movement itself came out of my imagination, my motivations, where I was at. And I just created it. Here it is. And look what has happened. We've now saved 17 lives. We've kept people off the streets. We've gotten people to change their personal life. I've heard from couples that have said they've changed the way they raise their kids. Literally, I had a gal write me like a 3-page letter today, how much my work has been influencing how she is raising her 9-year-old son. I'm not kidding. And it is having positive effect. And that all came out of my imagination and what I could imagine, the influence I could have if I was just given a voice, meaning if I was just able to speak and be heard, I knew I could make a difference. Because I'm a communicator, I'm a joiner, I bring things together, I can walk in many different worlds. I'm a Gemini. I'm fluid in different modalities. I can walk into any of them, no catches at all. None. It's been fluid leading Christianity, no catches. Can totally walk into space, talk about it, be there, no catches. Same with Rosicrucianism or alchemy or any of these other things we've studied. No catches. No catches. Can deal with all types of personalities. You can be however you wish to be. Roll with it, brother. You'll see no judgment from me. And it is what it is. And so that's what happens in Zoom. We got people in Zoom that have all different kinds of opinions and ideas, and I welcome all of it. Great. Great. Knock yourself out. We're here to grow and learn and become. We're not here to follow orders. You know what I'm saying? Yes, Gretchen is beautiful. She's a wonderful person. I'm very glad that she's here. Thank you for noticing that, Clueless. Right on, dude. Any more all caps questions before we call it a night? Yeah, I'm sorry, Cindy. I am trying right now in what I'm doing each week to help alleviate anxiety. That's one of my main emphasis. That's what I'm trying to do, is alleviate anxiety through practical means, through a general understanding and a deeper understanding and thought of yourself. And through that higher thinking, higher awareness, relinquish anxiety, remove these self-concerns. That's what I'm trying to do here. Am I way behind in questions? I'll just scoot down. I'm going to go straight to the bottom. New comments at the bottom, where? Here. This is at the bottom what I just read. Hi, Jamie. Higher and higher realms, Chuck. You betcha. And welcome back, Jamie. It's good to see you again. Where are you going, Craig? Where are you going, buddy? Don't leave. I like your being here. Chuck, do you recall Grace Slick singing White Rabbit and the lyric? Remember that the dormouse said, feed your head. You were simply feeding that mouse in the wall. Thank you for that five purple. The mouse had an enlightening experience. I hope my little buddy, I hope he went out into the field and had a moment. That'd be great. Love you too, Donna. Thank you for being here. Thank you for answering my questions, brother. I feel more at peace. Have an amazing weekend, right? You betcha. About to wrap it up. Yep, we're almost there. About to wrap it up. Is it true that one of the two brothers of the Anunnaki tried to save us? Yeah, there's a whole story with that, but the story I'm going to tell you guys next week supersedes that story. It's a bigger concept. I think a lot of that story and a lot of these things have been to dumb down the bigger picture, but I've really got some really good concepts I'll be sharing with you guys next week as we talk about the human emergence. Please satiate my curiosity regarding Lucifer. Explain what you're willing to explain. There's no short story for it, Carol. It's going to really require a very, very big perspective. So I'm not just going to throw it out there, because there's going to be some people that are going to have a really hard time. Okay, so I'm going to help clarify by fully elucidating this whole Lucifer concept. It just needs some time to talk about, and there's going to be a much greater understanding and much greater peace amongst the nature creature family once I'm able to explain this. I spent a lot of time working on this, and I now got the concept. Fair enough? Fair enough. Please come to Zoom tomorrow, everybody. Yeah, see, I can't fast. As you can see, Daniel. Hey, Daniel, you look great, but I like that hat. It's already 8 o'clock. We've been here since 5. And I haven't even gotten to, I've only gotten to the concept of the different densities. As you see, we just got finished with the densities. So next week, we're going to start moving into Loosh, visualizing consciousness. We're going to start talking about Loosh and how we can free ourselves from Loosh. These are key slides. They're coming next. I'm not going to show you anymore because I want you guys to see it next week. But we're going to be talking about these things in order to be able to free people from those problems. So that you, I'm not kidding. So that you literally, I'm not kidding. So that you, Daniel, will become distasteful. Meaning you're Loosh. You, to the controllers, to the 4D demons, you literally have the power to make yourself so tasteless that they won't want anything to do with you. Your Loosh will become so destructive to them, it would be like eating food poisoning as a person. You become that. And do you know how you do that, Daniel? Knowledge. Knowledge. A person, a 3D person, can get food poisoning from eating food, obviously, that's old, right? And so Loosh is food to those 4D beings. And you literally can become, I'm not kidding, food poisoning, Loosh poisoning to them. You will literally weaken them if they eat you. You have that kind of power. People don't realize this. People do not realize this. The more knowledge you ascertain, the greater your arsenal of wisdom, the more distasteful, disgusting you become. Literally. That is your power. Knowledge is your power. Those slides I read at the beginning of this talk, knowledge is your power. You will become so disgusting to them in how you taste and what you vibrate at and what it's like to be around you. They will want nothing to do with you, and you will be more powerful than them. I am not freaking kidding. I am not freaking kidding. This is what the controllers don't want you to know. Yes, Craig. Yes, Craig. This is the kind of thing, folks, this is how we save ourselves. I am telling you. Can you imagine if the entire human collective took on this attitude and became so distasteful? They wouldn't even be able to eat us anymore. Too high a vibration. That's why they put into fear everyone that they eat, the children, everything into fear, because that's low vibration. They steer your power, your potential into low vibration with fear, threat, ultimatum, pushing you down, stupefying you. That lowers your vibration. That makes you edible, friend. They're tenderizing you and then cooking you. And we haven't known this. When you know this, this is how you stop it. Imagine 90% of the collective, I'm not kidding, imagine 90% of the collective going to this kind of vibration. Folks, there'd be nothing to eat. There's nothing there for them. They're not in it for you. They're not in it for anything but to take from you. And when they have nothing left to take, it's like the bank robber, and they go and they're like, okay, and they're driving in the car, like, and the main guy says, okay, just so that you guys know, there's no money in the bank. There's no money in the bank. And everybody in the car be like, the hell are we going in? What? Why are we robbing the bank? There's no money in the bank. It's the same exact thing here on this planet. Same. It's the same thing. This is the power you have, and they do not want you to know these things. When you begin to organize like this in a way that is larger and bigger and more complicated and more enveloping than the BS stories they've been giving you about science, religion, spirituality, your body, everything, when you graduate, guess what happens? The magician can't perform the tricks anymore. Can't perform the tricks on you because you're not taken up with some stupid idea like there's a plan. Your ontology is bigger than that. You have graduated from that. You have left the stories that they have been giving you to dumb you down. This is the power in this Cassiopaean theology or mythology. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Heck yeah. That's my freaking goal. That's my freaking goal. That's my freaking goal. Yeah? Raise the vibration. I'm telling you guys, it is in you. Please, please understand that. You can become inedible. Do you realize that? Unedible. They will not be able to get you. They will not be able to take you, friend. You will not have any fear. You will know the bigger plan. You will see past their lies easily. It's like knowing the joke that the con is telling you on the stage. Knowing the jokes before you're not even going to laugh. Like, bro, I already heard this one. Or the trick, the illusion. You could stand up and say, you know what? This is exactly how you did that illusion, pal. I see right through it. It's worthless. Guess how much power that musician has, or that magician has? None. You just took it from him. Same thing with the 4D creatures. You raise your freaking vibrations so high they can't even freaking take you, man. People have no clue. We have been so dumbed down. We have been so belittled, especially with science and religion, which belittles you and dumbs you down, especially science and religion. Yeah. I love you too, friend. I love you too, NC Sweet 16. Absolutely love you too, my friend. I love you guys. We got to wrap it up. It is 8:01. Thanks for being here tonight. Do you guys want me to play the opener? It's about 15 minutes. Do you guys want to hang out and chat and talk while I play the opener, or do you just want to call a night and end it? You're welcome, Matt, and I'm honored to have you as a friend. Know that, Matt. I'm honored to have you here, friend. Okay? Make that very clear. There are many here that I feel that way. I am honored that you are here, and I'm so thankful that you're here. And yes, please come to Zoom. If you know anything about Zoom, please come to Zoom. Sorry, I don't mean to get emotional. There are certain people in this chat room that have a very strong hold on me. Clueless, you're another one. I so appreciate you, friend. Thank you so much. Okay, you want me to leave it open, Shan? Okay, I will play the opener. We'll just go for it again, and then that's going to run for 15 minutes, so you guys can hang out and chat, have a good time, chatting with each other. I'm going to go decompress, and I will see you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock on Zoom. If you would like to come and have a conversation with me, I would love to have a conversation with you. Please come to Zoom. There is a family of us that we've gathered together that are reasonable people and that will listen and hear you out and be kind to you and show you love. And if you want to be in an environment like that and you want to share in a higher vibration conversation and not be caught up in the egregores, my friend, please come to Zoom and join our conversation. Come join our conversation. Just go to my site, naturecreature.net. That's it. That's my site. And then simply become a member for $9 a month, and then you can access Zoom. Zoom is $9 a month, including all my extra videos. You'll even get 2 or 3 extra videos when you sign up today. And I'll be adding those videos each week as we continue down the road together. Okay? I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you, Catlin. Thanks for being here, friend. I love you. I love you so much. Okay, all good. Yeah, we're going to be talking about Lucifer next week. Yep, we will talk about it. Love you guys. I'll see you next week. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you later.
Art's task is to save the soul of mankind, and that anything less is a dithering while Rome burns.
When people are asleep, don't try to wake them up. And what I mean by that is don't try to force your awakening, your timeline on the people around you, or especially in partnership. Because what do we do when somebody tries to push their beliefs on us? We resist, right? And that's the natural human way. So what I always say is lead by the example of your own awakening. Lead by your connection to your own spirituality. Lead by the excitement of the ways that you are changing your life, and allow that energy to emanate off of you and to affect the people that it's meant to affect. And people wake up in their own time. People are always on their own timelines and journeys. So you can lead through your energy, you can lead through your example, but the minute that you try to push your awakening on someone else is when that gets challenging inside of the relationship. So it requires trust and surrender from you that you are meant to follow the path that you're meant to follow. If you feel like you're meant to change your life, if you're on the spiritual awakening path, follow that and trust and surrender that the people that are meant to come on that journey will stay, and the people that are meant to fall away will fall away. And that can be a really hard pill to swallow, but it requires a lot of trust and surrender and openness to your own path.
human free spirit is going to win out, because no one can know what the free will, the freedom of choice leads to. I mean, not even God can know that in many senses, if you think about it. Okay? So that's part of it. And that also means that whatever was in play is now no longer in play. Not because of some plan, but because of the free will of people. Now, there was an environmental change that took place to bring about that change of free will in the people. So yeah, you could think of that as a controlled operation, but in many ways it's not, because people could choose from two different ways. You can believe the controlled operation, or you can't, or you don't. Whatever the case may be, enough hope, enough desire for change, enough discontentment was released that it changed the world. It changed the direction of the wake. And so where are we now? Where are we now? We're in the midst of that. We're in the midst of the exercising out of the change that we, as a society, instigated. And I'm not just saying voted, I'm saying metaphysically. Understand that. I'm not just saying it was the vote that caused this. I'm saying it was the energy behind the vote, and so the vote was a manifestation and accompaniment that went with the change. That was the necessary change. How about them apples? And so here's the good news. Here's the good news. The energy that's going to continue to instigate the change that you're experiencing is the awareness of people. And the level of here's the key line, and the level of the catastrophe is going to be scaled by the knowledge of humankind. Do you understand what that means? That means that it's all on us. Again, this Cassiopaean theory that I'm telling you, that basically means that it's all on us. It's up to us. And however we wish to change is going to happen based entirely on how much participation we offer, how much meditative energy and energy for change and of change and away from these ideas of conflict that we manifest. You are the change that you seek, in other words. Yeah. You're the change that you seek. And if you align to a humanistic, humane-oriented value system, whatever change that is going to be yearning from your soul is going to be one that is of human value, humane value, naturally. And so this is teased out of you, this humane value, this reverence for nature, this reverence for yourself, this new identity and understanding of who you are, right, is teased out of you by your level, your scale of awareness, knowledge. This is why I really like this Cassiopaean theory, because it really is in keeping with this whole idea of self-responsibility that I've been talking about with you guys for years now. And I never knew anything about it. I never knew anything about it. And so the fact that it now has come forward, and it's just simply, literally, this thing is just blending right into not only the questions I've been persistently asking, which we're going to go over in the study, but it not only gives a really good opinion about that, But it also ties together this whole idea of knowledge being basically the agent, the enlivening elixir that the individual drinks, literally drinks into their life, into their body, into their spirit, that changes the world.
You make it sound easy. You say you just hold your hand out, don't you? You just hold your hand out, don't you? That hope never leaves you, 'cause a light shines on that helps you to steer, makes everything clear. Well, it might in your world, but it doesn't in mine. I've been stumbling in the dark for years, and the light just made me blind. You see, it lights every pathway, shows me how to live life for the rest of my days, for the rest of my days. But I can't put my faith in your words into mine. I believe in God, alright. It's folk like you I just can't stand. You don't have to try and scare me to reinforce my faith, sir, 'cause I know that one